6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Durham Sprague on Portland. Sports leader 1080, The Fan. Yes, indeed. Happy Monday, everybody. How we doing?
What is happening?
Oh, man. What a weekend.
Nice little weekend for the Sprague household.
Busy.
Busy.
Super busy.
A lot of stuff going on. Got tournaments, that time of year. School's almost out.
Final tournament of the season was this past weekend. It was in Salem.
Wrapped it up in Salem this weekend.
And I want to start the show by thanking our great friend, our delightful friend, Terry Boyd.
Terry Boyd.
Doing
Round
the
of
morning
applause.
show over at 92.
Round of applause, Terry Boyd.
KGON. Does a great job every morning as well.
He's the only other person in the building with us in the morning.
He's just as insane as us
It's
as well.
us three and Terry Boyd. Well, usually Swag, but Ortner's in today. Three of us on this show and Terry Boyd. That's it. That's all we got.
That is it. The lights are literally off in our building. We're all alone here. We're getting weird.
That's right.
But Friday after our show, we departed very quickly, went and golfed with Terry down at his club. It was great. He was great. It was a lot of fun. We got off that round at the exact perfect time. The last three holes, it was a scorcher.
Started getting it hot out there.
Oh, my God, it was hot. But we got off that course, and I saw a couple people making the turn. I'm like,
uh-oh.
Good luck.
It's going to be a long back nine for you.
Terry, me, Swag, we got into the clubhouse. We're just, exhausted. The sun had beat us to death.
Now, what's the was it a riding or walking situation?
Where we played is Creekside.
Yes.
If anybody's ever been down in the Salem area, it's kind of in deep Salem.
It's down deep.
You have to ride.
Got to ride.
You could walk. Walking would have maybe killed us.
And the back nine when it heats up a little bit and you're going up and down hills.
Back nine had a little elevation, so that would have been disastrous. So we rode. It was great. It was quick. Got done with the front in an hour and 40 minutes.
God, that's the beauty of a country club, isn't it?
It was.
No riffraff out there.
Yeah.
Nobody just coming out for a random round in denim jeans on a Friday afternoon when it's finally nice. You know, everybody's into golf. Everybody knows what they're doing at a country club.
Swag and I broke 100.
Look at you. Well done. Double round of applause.
Stay right now.
Double round of applause.
It wasn't great. It was double. Somehow chip in birdie over a bunker from 30 yards out.
Hey.
Double, triple, bogey, par. From there
it's a bit of a Jordan Spieth scorecard there. Little highs, little lows, a lot of highs, a lot of lows.
But it was a good time. But Friday, so we raced down there. We're in Salem.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround from the show to get to the tee time on Friday.
Well, the Waze was saying, I don't know if Waze has been messed up, but Waze was arrival time 10:30. Our tee time was 10:30.
You turn it and burn him.
Then I get in the car and we start driving, and the Waze just tweaks it. It literally just I don't know. It just shook or something, and then it went to 9:40, and I'm like, oh.
That's a slight difference in departure time or arrival time.
So we did that. We turn, we play golf, we have fun, we go home, and then Saturday, Sunday, I have tournaments all day Saturday, Sunday in Salem.
And you're just driving back down there.
So I've just been in Salem for the last 3 straight days.
Just hanging out down in Salem all weekend. It's nice to have basketball wrapped up, though. You get your summer on, kids are out of school, you get playing activities and stuff now. Don't got to worry about weekends being eaten up. I learned the hard way this weekend of what it's like living in a house without air conditioning again, so that was fun.
You don't have AC in that house?
No AC in that house. To make it even worse, I've been up since 1:45. To make it even worse, a lot of caffeine today, FYI.
You're going to crash so hard this afternoon.
It's going to be bad. Today's going to be a rough day in the Johnson household. 90% of the windows, too, don't open in the house. So it's just
those. Are they those old school
the
windows?
old school rope windows that have been painted shut. The rope doesn't hold, and so it was about a balmy 85 in there in the middle of the night last night.
Welcome to Portland, you woke lib.
The old Teddy Ballgame was not through. Where's my air conditioning? Where's this? We came from a place with air conditioning. Now we don't have air conditioning. I'm not going to sleep all night.
Are you going to get air conditioning?
Yeah, we're working on some stuff. We've only been there a week. Windows are on the docket. They're very high on the list. That's first step. Getting some windows that can actually get fresh air in the house would be delightful, and then we'll go from there.
You know those you may have had one or seen those, the window, not the ones that sit in the window.
Yeah, not the box ones.
But the ones that actually they have wheels and the boxes in the house.
Oh, the Costco AC, man. They're phenomenal.
Dude, for your house especially.
That'll be perfect.
Yeah, one room, just have that thing blast. Your house will feel amazing.
Yeah, here's the great part. Windows in the bedroom don't open, so can't put one in there.
I'd put it in your living room.
Windows in the living room don't open. Can't put one in there.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
what do you
What's
do?
the point
I'm doing great.
Open?
That's a great
How did
question.
You sleep?
I didn't sleep. Yeah, no sleep.
Dude, that's uncomfortably hot.
Not great, Bob. Not great. We moved in and then saw the weather report a week out, 91. It's like, oh, God. this isn't going to
My
end
house
well.
was hot, and I had my AC on.
This is not going to end well for us. So, we're doing great today. We're doing great.
Well,
yeah, what's the point of windows that don't open? I don't know. I haven't quite figured that one out yet.
Previous owners never opened their windows, so they just
I don't know how
stuck?
any psychopath could live like this long term.
This is how they used to live.
This is how they lived. They didn't. This is their house. I don't know how they survived.
We're soft.
I got all sorts of questions, man.
We're soft as a society because of these issues.
We absolutely are. It's like the traffic situation. I need to know where I'm going. I got to have answers. And if I don't have technology and air conditioning, I'm going to be a little frustrated.
You ever mentally being so, like, you're sweating in your own house, I'm assuming? You're probably in what would look like boxer briefs, but maybe they're not, but they're about that size.
Just laying on top of the bed.
Right.
Just sticking. Doesn't matter. Still sweating. Waking up. Like,
Yep.
I don't know if I can move right now. I think my back is stuck to the bed currently.
Look, you love where you live. You had mentally a buyer's remorse for 5 minutes, did you not?
What the hell did I get myself into?
Why did I do this?
Today, especially because it's going to be hotter than hell today, too. And then I think it finally cools off. So it gives me like one more day to survive and then like a week to figure out windows and air conditioning. Because if I don't get those solved before the summer fully hits, I'm going to die this summer. I'm not going to make it.
I mean, in the gym, so we played at Willamette, and I had never been inside Willamette's University. I just driven past it, know a couple people that went there. So I was excited for the girls to be at a college. You know, how cool is it to be at a college court and all that? Most of our games were on the main court, and they had a downstairs basement court. I don't know if they had AC. I was
in the gym.
Dude, I was sweating standing on that sideline coaching.
They definitely have AC. That's one of those, let's save a little money this weekend.
It wasn't blasting, I'll tell you that
much. That's a Willamette home game. They're cranking that thing. For a 90-degree Saturday, they're taking care of their fans. For a youth basketball tournament, I don't think so. We're saving pennies.
My kids shamed me. Why are you sweating? You didn't play. We just lost by 30. You know, it's hot here.
I'm standing up. I'm sitting down. I'm yelling at the officials.
I'm trying to coach you.
I'm clapping aggressively here. It's hotter than balls in here, man. God, the most Oregonian thing ever to do is to complain about the constant cold weather and rain, and then the second you get a weekend where it's like 90 degrees, like, man, it is too damn hot out.
Well, we're never happy.
We're never happy.
We're never happy as people.
What happened to 75 and just a little overcast? That's all I'm asking for.
Well, I was driving in. I went over the Fremont, and I had this brief moment where the lighting, I kind of looked to my left, a little behind for a second, because, you might merge.
Yeah.
And I see Mount Hood. I see the sun coming up. And I'm just like, this is it, man. This is as good as it gets in life.
We're living the dream.
And then instantly went, it's going to rain all next June, isn't it? We had such a nice June. It's going to rain all June next year. And I'm going to remember this moment on the bridge going, hey, the light's out. And it's not even 5:30 a.m. How great is this?
Feels fantastic.
But yeah, I mean, we're never satisfied. We go from 50 and rain, this is miserable, I hate this, to, it's 88. Can't be outside for 20 minutes.
Do it anymore.
It's a scorcher.
Every time I go through one of these things, I just think to myself, like, how did people 100 years ago survive at all? I don't get it.
I mean, they didn't really, though. What was the average lifespan of 80
a little bit shorter
to 100 years ago?
Yeah, you go 1925. Let's see what the average lifespan was in 1925.
I mean, the mind-blowing part of It's a Wonderful Life, the movie every year in December, is in the beginning when George is working at the storefront as a little boy. Remember? And the guy running the storefront's loading medicine. Do you remember the letter the guy gets that makes him so devastated?
His kid dies in the war.
No.
Wasn't that what it was?
No. His kid died from just getting sick.
Oh,
he had influenza.
Sick.
He's
That's
dead.
what it was.
And it's like, back then they couldn't even get sick. They died.
57.6 for men, 60.6 for women 100 years ago.
Think about that. People dying at 40 wasn't like insane.
Hey,
it was
kind of
like,
old, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't quite make it.
How did he die? It just got too hot, man. His windows didn't open. He didn't have any air conditioning.
He's wearing like thick wool pants because he could never wear shorts because we didn't really invent them.
No, he went crazy. His kids wouldn't sleep. It was hotter than balls. He just said, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm passing on. I'm ready to be over.
I mean, think about that. How many old images do you see?
It's always hot clothes.
It is.
Always pants, long sleeve T-shirts, just
They didn't believe in shorts.
No, I don't know if they had them. When was the short invented?
Look that up because I remember a segment on Isaac and Suk last week where they were debating what's the best era of clothing because they think we dress too dumpy now.
Ah, okay.
Like people show up to events and they're not dressed properly, which I would agree with.
That's definitely a thing we've all been guilty of.
But I would counter because they were like the 20s, the 30s, Schulte's like the 40s. I'm like, Look, you guys are right, but you're also wrong. You're right in when they showed up to a party or an event,
classy and elegant.
They looked elegant. They looked done up. They looked right for the gig. Outside of that, they wore most of those clothes at the wrong time.
That's all they had. That was their wardrobe, like 7 days a week.
91, and it's like, let's get our pocket watch and our jacket and our pants, and it's like, no, not at all. I'd gladly be naked in my house, never leaving.
This says the shorts were invented in the late 1800s. It was a schoolboy uniform, and they began including them as shorts. So that's how it started.
Okay.
And then the concept of men's shorts, as we know them today, was born in the Bermuda Island during World War I.
I got a little Dutch kid like in the Ricola commercials wearing shorts.
It's hot out. I got shorts on now.
Ricola.
I mean, you're talking World War I. That's not. I mean, that's basically over a little over 100 years ago. We haven't even had shorts that long.
They didn't even perfect them when they had them.
No,
they were like, I don't know about this, man. We can't do that.
Still thicker than hell. But they didn't even become a part of sports until the 1930s and 40s.
Anytime I watch Back to the Future 3, when Marty goes back to the Old West, that's all they're wearing, and all the weather is really sunny and hot. And I'm like, God, they got to be miserable.
You're out in a desert somewhere. It's nothing but heat and scorpions.
Dude, and they didn't shower and bathe routinely. Like, that stank had to have been a different level of stank.
That's the only saving grace after a long, hot day without air conditioning is the cold shower at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The cold shower at the end of the day at least gives you a little bit of hope in humanity, and then you're immediately dried off and realize, damn it, it's still 85 degrees in here.
I agree with you, Andrew. I agree. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day.
Continue to go through it.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It was actually hot when I left this morning.
Things are great. Things are going wonderful, man.
You definitely won't snap at me at any one point.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to be angry at all on the show today. I'm not going to let my sleep deprivation dictate my mood
You're
for the next
caffeinated on sleep deprivation.
Next 3 hours. All right. God, I better take a nap today.
Coming up next, Oregon's going to be 5th in the Big Ten in football this year.
I'm going to lose it today.
Dan Wetzel's going to join us at 7:30, and Mike Doc Parker, good Doc Parker, going to be on at 8:15, the voice of the Beavers. It's a loaded show. Dirt and Sprague, let's get it going next on The Fan.
It's back.
PGA Championship, Dirt. I don't think we'll be getting to the U.S. Open until about midway to the end of the week.
You don't got any rough content in your notes today? No Oak Mount content in your notes?
Boy, that's a lot of bush on that course.
A lot of bush, man. Talk about 70s bush. A lot of 70s bush out there.
I got Bryson audio for you if you want it.
Ooh, what's Bryson talking about? Is he like the
he
big
was
bush?
Swinging out of the bush.
Is he a fan of the bush?
Couldn't find his ball in it.
Yeah,
he actually
that can happen from time to time.
He had a really good shot, and he looked disappointed. I'm like, dude, that's a great shot.
That's not a bad shot right there.
Right.
Yeah.
We put a poll question up last night. What did you watch the most of this weekend? Now I know we only had one Stanley Cup game and one NBA Finals game.
A little unfair there.
A little bit, but from start to, did you do start to finish? What did we watch? The tennis had a historic. They had Coco Gauff win under the age of 21.
Yes, I saw that.
And I love that the gal that she beat, did you see her response to losing?
No, I did not.
She basically was like, she didn't do anything. I lost.
Oh, took all the credit.
Kind of took the credit for losing versus being beat.
That's a hot take after you lose.
I guess. And then the men's, they didn't want to stop playing tennis. They played for almost 6 hours.
How does that... Does anybody watch that entire thing?
Yes.
Do tennis diehards watch 5 hours and 32 minutes of that?
It's the equivalent to watching the final round in a golf tournament.
I guess that's true.
You would never turn it off. Maybe you fall asleep for a couple holes,
Take a
but
nap
you wake up.
on the 8th hole, and then you wake up.
You're like the asleep audience member. You wake up.
Oh, hey.
Great shot. Great shot.
Rory's back in the lead. All right, this is great. I'm excited now. I'm a little depressed when I fell asleep.
Well, I left in the morning on Sunday, and I saw a Alcaraz and Sinner about to start, and I'm driving down. I'm like, I'll watch some of it. And I go to see, I wonder who won, because I wanted to see the last couple sets.
Right.
And it said still going. And I was like, what the hell? How does this? And I saw the last few sets.
5 hours and 32 minutes is insane. That is such a long time.
That's nuts.
At least with a golf tournament, I'll give you that there's more than one thing going on at once. Now, they're all playing the same course, but you got, hopefully a handful of guys that are in the mix.
Right.
So it's not just two guys the entire time, although some tournaments do end up being that. In totality, it is unfair. I probably watched the most Beaver baseball just because they had 3 games. I saw snippets. I didn't see the entire game Friday night, and then I watched a lot of it Saturday
God, Friday
and a lot of it
lucky.
Sunday. Yeah, Friday was a lucky come from behind win there.
Friday doesn't happen, they're not advancing to Omaha.
And then last night was okay, talk about 5 hours and 32 minutes. This game's going to take 7.5 hours. Are we going to end this thing anytime soon? No, another pitching change. Let's score 5 more runs.
Dude,
another home run. Let's walk a couple of more guys. It just would not end. But Beaver baseball probably took the cake for the overall weekend. The only event, though, that I watched start to finish was Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah, that was great.
That was the only one. On
great.
Saturday night, or Friday night, I don't know. It's all blurred. Friday night, I believe. That game was fantastic on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, double overtime and in the Stanley Cup.
I kind of hoped at that point, once you get to a second overtime, I'm hoping we go to 5.
What is the longest Stanley Cup final game?
It's a great question. I think one has reached 3 OTs before.
Okay.
But so, I mean, we were encroaching on it. I remember watching some of those many years ago, but 2 overtimes is not bad. The worst is when you get the build up for the overtime and then it ends right away.
I just think
you get all excited. You're like, ooh, overtime hockey. And 90 seconds in, oh, all right, game's over.
There's got to be nothing more defeating than ending the third period tie. You're like, we're going to overtime. And then you sit for 20 minutes, you repad up, you go out there, and it's over in a minute.
Just, all right, see you later.
Well, I'm glad we collected ourselves and came out here and got embarrassed in less than 60 seconds.
The guy in the Zamboni's like, dude, I don't even need to do that, man. That was just a waste of my time there in the intermission. The longest Stanley Cup final game in history, Game 1 of the 1990 Stanley Cup Finals between Edmonton and Boston, and it went to 3 overtimes. The Oilers won 3-2 in the third overtime.
Coincidentally, same team.
Yeah, 15-13 into the third OT, so about 5 minutes to go in 3 OTs.
Can I give you a bit of a hot take?
What do you got, Bob?
A hockey take that you're going to laugh and hate?
I'll probably laugh and hate it.
I think in hockey, the more overtime you go, so the end of the third period, it's not over.
Not over.
I think the Zamboni driver only Zambonis 75% of the ice.
It's just like,
and then if you get to the end of the overtime, 50%. If you go to a third, there is no Zamboni.
You just keep going.
Deal with all the nicks and the craters in the ice. We're ending this thing, but it's going to get ugly.
That's the funny thing is one of the reasons those games take so long sometimes is that if you don't have a smooth sheet of ice, but you just can't handle the puck. It's all over the place. And so you just get no offense. Teams are just playing defense, trying to force a turnover. There's not a lot of skill involved at that point of a hockey game.
I think the audience largely, though, whether you hate the Beavers or don't care about the Beavers, I do think it probably overall was the thing locally that got the most eyeballs.
They're dominating the poll question right now.
Yeah.
60% of people saying Beaver baseball. Then slight second is, or second over third is NBA Finals at 16. Other was 15.
Do I have it wrong? And maybe I shouldn't say this out loud given I went to Oregon State.
How dare you?
I've always viewed going to Omaha, and I know there's more teams just from a count perspective.
Yeah.
I always viewed Omaha as a pseudo getting to the Final Four vibe.
Ah.
Like in the way that, like, I know the tournament has got, 68 now. Used to have 64.
Sure.
I understand there's a lot of teams. I don't know, maybe because of the amount of baseball teams that exist.
There's a lot of them in there.
There's a vibe that getting to Omaha is the equivalent feeling of getting to a Final Four. And I know there's more than 4 teams.
That's a good poll question right out of the gate today.
Does it not feel that way?
I don't know if I would go. Well, my team's never been to Omaha, so I can't speak on this.
Oh, that's right.
But my team has been to a Final Four.
Yes.
And I felt like the Final Four was a bigger deal.
No, I think it is a bigger deal.
No,
to
I'm just
people.
like in terms of like the level of accomplishment for the team. Like obviously college
But
basketball
they're
is more
parading
popular.
around a big ticket yesterday.
They are.
We punched our ticket.
Here's what I say. I see the argument because it's not the traditional, like in the NCAA tournament, you go with all the teams and you play through your bracket.
Right.
This is a little bit different where all the teams are at different regional sites and then you go to a super regional
There's a
site.
4-team regional, and then
Yes.
there's the super best of 3. Like, all right, it's almost like you're getting to a World Series. I mean, it is the World Series, but you know what I mean. It's like
Yes.
this last series, and we get there.
I feel like that's more of like a Sweet 16 Elite 8 kind of thing. Like you made it out
Okay.
of the opening weekend of the tournament. Like you get through your Thursday game, you get through your Saturday game, and now you've made it to the next venue. You've made it to the next spot and destination.
Okay, Elite
I don't
8,
know if
yeah.
I'd go Final Four. Final Four is a little bold. I think if you win a couple of games in Omaha, maybe you get that equivalence. I see the overall point you're trying to make. I just don't know about Final Four.
Well, because what in that sport specifically, they tout we got to the College World Series this year.
yeah, trips to Omaha.
Trips to Omaha.
That's a big deal.
This is the 9th trip, I believe, for
Yeah.
Oregon State getting to Omaha, which is crazy that they'd been there 8 times and they'd won it 3.
It's a pretty good percentage.
They showed Florida State and how many times Florida State's gotten there and not been able to do it. Arkansas is one of these programs that wants to win it.
Been there a million times. They kicked the crap out of Tennessee this weekend. I saw
They
that.
sure did. But I just feel like they say we got to the World Series the way that teams say Final Four.
Now, do teams do that with the tournament, though? Because I feel like teams do that with the NCAA tournament as well. Like, you count tournament year. You know the years your team made the tournament, the years your team missed it.
That's a good question.
I'm not saying it's the same level of
No, that's a good
accomplishment
question. It's
because
got me
Omaha, 16 teams go to Omaha, right?
Yes. 8?
8.
8.
It's
It's 8. 'Cause
Double
it's the
elimination.
final
Okay.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
It's very confident answers.
I looked
All
up the
over
bracket.
the board.
Well,
I looked up the
8.
bracket today.
8.
It's 8.
Final
That's it.
answer.
We're waiting for Duke and
Definitely
Murray
8.
State to punch the ticket.
Yes.
Oh, we got
But
more super regionals today?
Yeah.
They're
One.
still going on.
Yeah,
one game.
Did we have it with some rainouts over the weekend?
I think they started late.
Okay.
They staggered them.
What the hell? Why are we staggering them? Why is there a
don't
game on a
know.
Monday?
I don't know.
I'm questioning all this. It had to have
Mad at
been
me
weather.
for
Should have been wrapped up yesterday. That's my hot take. So you get 8 teams in the College World Series. So obviously making the tournament is far easier than it is to make Omaha and make the College World Series. But I feel like teams do that in college basketball.
I mean, they start quite literally with 64.
Yeah, and you
so
work
it
your way
really
down.
is NCAA tournament vibe. So maybe to your point, it's the equivalent of getting to an Elite 8.
Yes.
Oregon State men's basketball got to an Elite 8,
That
and
they
it was a
did.
massive deal.
It was a huge deal when you got to Elite 8.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I just
Yeah.
misread that. in
I
my
think you're
head.
close, though. It's a big deal to get to Omaha. And they're going back to Omaha.
They just feel more
Omaha!
excited about being in that Elite 8 than like the basketball's excited, but they're not
Sure.
running around with anything to say we're in the Elite 8.
No, that's the Elite 8 win that you get because then you cut down the nets for the regional
Yeah,
final.
so you can go to the final.
And
four,
that's
yeah.
when, so to your point, you get the celebration at the end of it. You don't celebrate that way after a Sweet 16 win. You still got another game to go.
Sadly, I think the NBA Finals game too.
I mean, that game sucked. That game was terrible.
You want to talk about it?
Not really, no.
You don't. wanna talk
Oklahoma City kicked the crap out of them, kind of like we all thought that they would.
Man, they sure did.
And I hope that doesn't happen 3 more times because they should be up 2-0 in this series.
I had the Beavs on my iPad, and I was largely watching that because every time I was seeing the NBA, it was like they're still up 15, they're
Yeah.
still up 16.
Game never changed. It was the same game from start to finish.
But I had to run to the kitchen real quick, and so my TV's in the other room, so I can kind of see it, but I can't see the score. And I hear something, but I don't hear it all the way, and I'm screaming at her, "What's the score?" She's like, 118-99. How much time? 2 minutes and 33 seconds. It's over.
Yep. That's when it's finally safe.
That's when it's not. They're not coming back at that point.
Indiana, you got to be careful. I did not place my Indiana trailing bet because I knew they've already used up their magic mojo.
They
probably.
might have used it all up, man. They might have used it all up.
Yeah, you missed the train the first time. You don't jump on the train the second time because it ain't gonna happen again. And that was a forgettable NBA Finals game. There was one really funny thing that we can talk about out of it, though, and it was the NBA's response to all the criticism.
Oh,
the game
I want to
won.
get into that.
That needs to be discussed today.
I guess that's the angle we can go with as well. Also, Oklahoma City just kind of looking like the wagon we expected to see. They were up 15 in game one.
Yeah, they had a big lead there.
They should have won that one, too, and how different we feel where you can match up Halliburton's number quite literally to the left of SGA's number, and it's a 0-2. That's where the Pacers could be. They're not, but they could be there, but they got their split. So we'll talk about that in the NBA's overreaction. We'll get to that coming up next. But first, Ortner with a sports update.
This is a U.S. Open Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the NHL heads south to Florida for Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. Florida is favored on the money line over the Oilers at -140. Puck drop at 5, series tied at 1-all. That game can be heard on 910 ESPN Portland, starting with the pregame show at 4:30. The Oregon State Beavers punched their ticket to the College World Series with a 14-10 victory over the Florida State Seminoles in Game 3 of their Super Regional. The Beavs, they're going to take on Louisville in their first game in Omaha. That time is subject to change. Mariners back in action tonight, starting a new series with the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Emerson Hancock on the mound for the Mariners, Merrill Kelly on the mound for Arizona. First pitch scheduled for 6:40. Oklahoma City was able to outlast the Pacers, winning 123-107 in Game 2 of the NBA Finals. SGA led the way for the Thunder with 34 points. Game 3 will be on Wednesday in Indianapolis. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work. Insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
Jump back to earlier parts of
Definitely a song that comes on in the car and you end up singing.
Every time.
The Pacers aren't singing.
No, they're not feeling good, Piano Man.
123 to 107, largely blown out most of the game. And Halliburton didn't really get it going until the fourth quarter when the game was kind of over.
He didn't do a lot in game one either. That was the funny part. But he hit the shot that everybody will remember. He had what should have been the first Mike Breen bang of the series, but he didn't get a bang.
I believe he is rightfully a polarizing superstar conversation point.
Yeah.
Because he has moments where you go, my God, 32, 14, and 15.
That was awesome.
And then he has a lot of these kind of 16, 8, and 4 type lines. I know that wasn't his official line yesterday. Yesterday he was 17, 6, and 3.
Not terrible.
No, but also most of the game not amazing. He had 5 turnovers. I'm not trying to do the whole, like, every game react.
In one direction or the other. Are the Pacers going to do this?
Yeah, right.
Will the Pacers win a game?
Right.
Back and forth.
I mean, I just think mathematically what the Pacers have done has been not only historic, but, like, it just doesn't feel sustainable. But I also think they're going to win a game in Indy. And I could be way wrong on that because that Thunder team, the one that didn't blow game one, the one that had the lead and then stepped on the throat, I can't tell you, Dirt, how many times, because I stopped caring about the gap was so big that I stopped caring about keeping up with it live, that I would stop and show my daughter this. Watch this play. This is basketball right here. Jalen Williams dribbles up, hits corner Caruso. Caruso basically indicates to pop out SGA. SGA pops out, triple threat, swing it around to Williams. Williams to Wallace. Wallace, quick over, back to Caruso, who went oppo corner, wide open 3, bang. Like, that is orgasmic basketball.
Yes.
I did that like 4 or 5 times because this game was so bad that I'm like, I can catch up. I'll be okay. I'm not going to miss anything.
Let's have this just be a teaching point for young basketball players.
But, you know, much like the Pacers won game 1, people were like, oh, my God, are they going to do it? It is a lot today of like, okay, see, it's over. They're going to win in 5.
Yeah, you're gonna go in both directions throughout the course of a series. I didn't give it much of a chance to be a series when it began, and my mind didn't change a lot after game 1 because I'll reiterate what I said on Friday, and that just essentially was, how many times can Indiana do that? You cannot find yourself in a 15 to 20-point deficit for the majority of the game and come back consistently against a team that's this talented.
Hard to win a title that way.
Like, you just can't. And so, like, you gotta be competitive in the first half, give yourself a puncher's chance going into the second half, and then maybe somebody gets hot. For the whole Halliburton superstar conversation, he has not been great in this series. He's had some down moments so far in the playoffs, but he's hit a lot of memorable shots and had a lot of great moments throughout the course of this run, including the game winner essentially in game 1. The tough part is, though, added on top of him not playing at that high of a level is the guy that I circle going in saying if Indiana had any chance, they needed him to play well, and he has not done much in the first 2 games either, and that's Pascal Siakam, who went for 15 last night on 3 of 11 shooting.
You didn't think he was good in game 1?
I mean, he was fine in game 1.
I thought he was the only reason they were able to kind of float around.
Sure, he hung him around in the first half, and then they had other random guys kind of go off in the second half. But he's coming off a series against New York where he was averaging almost 26 points a game and shooting 52% from the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, he's shooting 38%, averaging 17. And having 15 last night, I thought was kind of a letdown game on 11 shots. It's not very efficient. He just got to the foul line a ton, and that's what helped him a little bit. But you got to have one of your 2 guys show up with a big offensive performance because OKC has too much depth that they can throw at you.
Well, I think the thing about that is when you watch OKC play last night, and you saw this in game 1, but it just kind of died because their offense couldn't convert. God, that defense.
Yeah.
I mean,
they can throw so many different guys at Halliburton to make his life hell, and he's got to get rid of the ball because it's the right basketball play, and then somebody else has to do something.
It just feels like every time somebody on Indiana drives, I mean, you get in once in a while, you get Turner who makes a good move on Chet, or Pascal made some good cuts and some good moves, but it just feels like through 2 games, the thing that I keep coming back to is every time it feels like somebody drives for Indy, there's 3 players just instantly swarming them.
Just waiting for you.
And yesterday, they didn't have 25 or 19 first-half turnovers and 25 total, but 15 turnovers. It just felt like also a lot of lost possessions where bad shots were thrown up because they have them panicking and in the shot clock. Oh, I got to hoist a grenade type vibe. So it's just like Oklahoma City's defense. I think ultimately, if they win this series, as it goes back to Indiana tied at 1, I think if it goes back and Oklahoma takes care of and puts a stranglehold on it, I mean, we're going to talk about how complete a roster they are, how they share the basketball. Like, every single player is looking to pass.
Yep.
Not even SGA, the best player of the MVP, is not looking to shoot. He just once in a while takes his moments. I think we're going to go back to the defense. It's absolutely the defense. Having this ability to have that many wings, athletic dudes, run around, switch, not have a problem switching, and then you've got a 7-foot guy who weighs 110 pounds, but man, is he athletic and rangy and lengthy, and he can make up some ground too. It's tough to beat that kind of defense, man. This is really one of the better defenses we've seen in the NBA Finals in a long time.
And it doesn't get talked about a lot. When I watch them on the other side of the ball, on the offensive end, there's a very strong Spurs vibe to it.
Yes,
where
very
it
Spursy.
seems like they're all
I think their whole organization feels very Spursy.
very similar, right?
SGA is Duncan. It's like he'll give you some good answers, but largely it's not like controversial.
No.
He was asked, how do you define, MVP, superstar, face of the league stuff? And he was just like,
He's not a very flamboyant personality.
I don't know.
He's not outspoken on a lot of things. I don't
No.
know a lot about him other than his nationality, and he knows what a pro wants and what a pro needs. Like, there's not many things that stand out when you think about him, but the way that they move, the way that they pass, the way they distribute, and the way it's always about the team on
It's
that
gorgeous.
side of the ball.
I'm jealous.
It really is a gorgeous brand of basketball. I'm going to hold out a little bit of hope that Indiana maybe gets a win back at home, at least pushes the series a little bit. Last night was, really 85% of the series so far has not been very encouraging for
No.
Indiana, sans that fourth quarter comeback. But that is going to be a really cool scene to see them hosting an NBA Finals game again for the first time in a long time.
I tend to agree with you. If it goes back to OKC 2-2, like, we shouldn't be sitting here going, well, OKC's still going to win. Like,
No.
we should still give the Pacers some benefit to be able to do it. I'm excited to see it go back to Indiana. Did you notice anything on the court last night?
I did notice something on the court last night.
So we had talked about this, how the NBA, and it wasn't just the court for me. Like, I saw a clip after our show Friday from Amino Hassan, who's like, they actually haven't had anything on the court since 2014.
Yeah, we
Casuals. And I'm like, that's not the point, bro.
we
Like,
complain about this every year. It's been a thing every year.
it's just gotten worse and worse, and
Yeah.
you can't care more about your IST than your finals. Like, give me my intro. Give me everything. Give me as much
Yeah.
pageantry as you can. It's your championship.
It sums. We do this every year with the Super Bowl too. When they release a Super Bowl logo and graphic, we say the same thing every year. What happened when these used to be great? When they were like shaped after the city that the Super Bowl was being played in, every single one was unique, and that's not the case anymore.
Well, and so Adam Silver responded because he is very online and he sees
he
it.
is.
And the minute there's negativity, he has to respond to it. So he sees the reaction to people just saying like, yo, this doesn't feel like the finals. I know it is, but it doesn't feel, you guys aren't making it a bigger deal. That it should be bigger. And he goes, yeah, we'll look into putting things on the court next year. And I'm like, oh, that's great.
Great
Good news.
Got to watch this NBA Finals without any sort of logo, any sort of trophy, nothing.
Well, little did I know that they were going to digitally add the trophy to the court. And that's exactly, they did the most lazy possible thing you could do. Here's your digital Larry O'Brien trophy on the court.
Looked like it was drawn on some computer program, too. It didn't even look like a clear picture.
What is it? Is it Microsoft Paint? Looks like something that I would have created in 5th grade. They're like, just throw it on the court. They just want to see something.
Draw the Larry O'Brien for 5th grade art class, and you're going to end up on the court of an NBA Finals game.
I think it kind of sums up my point, but also the league's problem is, look, they've already gotten to this point without it. Just finish this series and step it up next year. But they're so online that the 5% of active Twitter users who complain, they think the whole world is screaming and caring of like, oh my God, they're mad at us. Let's do something. Instead of just saying, yeah, all right, we'll address it. Sorry about that. We'll move on. Get through this finals. We'll do it next year. The digital thing, they just added to it yesterday. I thought it was hilarious.
To add even more to it as well, it was funny. Now, you might correct me if I'm wrong on this, but because I was kind of in and out watching the game and it was a blowout, so I'm not I'm not glued to it every second. I believe I read, too, that it was only on the court for certain pockets of time, and then, it wasn't on the court the entire game. They just had it on for little snippets, and then they would switch it out with another advertisement.
It was finals or it was the trophy.
Yeah, see, I thought I saw the screen a couple of times where I looked up and I'm like, that's an advertisement. That's not an NBA Finals YouTube TV, and the trophy is now gone.
Yeah.
We're selling something else for this, stretch of basketball, and then we'll get back to the trophy.
It just was weird because it'd go from trophy to finals,
Yeah, because it should be on the floor. It shouldn't change because it should actually be on the court of the NBA Finals.
Agree 100%. I just also find the digital advertising on the court bizarre.
It's horrible.
It's it doesn't make or break me watching the sport.
No.
It is odd.
It's frustrating.
Does
to say the
baseball
least.
have any equivalent outside of behind the home plate advertising they do digitally? Like, they don't do anything on the field.
They do.
Imagine if they had something in center field.
Just like a huge logo in the middle of the field.
Yeah, like instead of the MLB All-Star Game cutting and mowing a logo the way they do.
Sure, there's a giant Geico advertisement out there. Like, what is this nonsense,
MLB
dude?
All-Star Game, Geico.
This is the World Series. What is happening right now? Sometimes I'll see teams put a graphic on the back of the pitcher's mound, like impose an advertisement on the back of the mound.
I think you're right.
I've seen those a few times, but that is at least kind of out of sight, out of mind. But the ones that drive me nuts are the ones behind home plate. Like, just we're that desperate for a few extra bucks. You're making millions and millions of dollars every year. When is enough? Let me enjoy my fields. Let me enjoy my courts, damn it.
I tend to agree with that.
It's ridiculous. A horrible look for the NBA that they almost made even worse by reacting to it in the half-ass way that they did.
They did, yeah.
Like, just if you're going to do something about it, you have the ability to change the court out. You're a billion-dollar industry. Fly a new damn court in. Paint the thing. Get it ready. You got 7 days off in between games of the NBA Finals already.
Ortner, can you turn your mic on real quick?
No.
Also, one observation. Watching I want to say it was the halftime, or maybe it was the postgame. I didn't watch much postgame, but watching I think it was the half. They came back because they do these shorter segments on ESPN, and they have Kendrick, they've got Bob Myers, they got Screaming A. Smith.
An award-winning halftime show.
It literally, Ortner, turn the mic on. It ended with this. Let's all talk at the same time. Ready? Go.
I can't believe there was a logo on the
really
watch.
How
did Indiana not win
basketball was really bad.
This series should be
and I just
2-0.
couldn't believe it.
Do we really like basketball?
And then it went to commercial. And I just had Bob Myers screaming at Kendrick screaming at Bob Myers, Stephen A. like, hey, I'm Stephen A. And I'm just like, they're all screaming at the same time. And I'm like, what is this show?
This is phenomenal content is what it is.
Get them off. Get them off. Malika Andrews even, Portland's very own.
Yeah.
She asked out loud, dangerous for the Thunder to only be up 18?
Oh, they're in trouble.
Dangerous.
They blew a lead in game one, don't you know, Bob?
They'd rather be up 18 than tied, but okay, I digress.
Maybe they want to be tied. That way they stay sharp in the second half. They don't have to worry about blowing a lead.
That show's lost their. I don't know who they are. They're a confused show, man. I don't know what they're doing.
Wait till they ruin the best basketball show that we have, which they uncertainly will do next year.
We'll get to the Beavers. They've punched their ticket to the Elite Eight of baseball. Omaha.
Omaha!
Mitch Canham. Thought he couldn't do it.
Can't win the big one.
He's not clutch.
Has he won the big one now? If he doesn't win a game in Omaha, has he still not won the big one?
Fire him.
Does this count as a big one? Yeah. Super regional win? That's got to be a big one, right?
We'll get to that coming up at the top of the hour. Something about the regional that I want to ask you involving the sport of baseball. We got Dan Wetzel at 7:30 to talk about the NCAA House settlement that finally stamped. We got a judge.
It's going to solve all of our problems.
Where's the money going to get spent? How's it going to be distributed throughout sports and athletic departments? We'll get to that today. But we're back with more Dirt and Sprague on the Fan. TNT on the call, Kenny Albert. Brad Marchand, who was picked up by the Panthers this year from the Boston Bruins.
That little rat's fitting in well down in South Florida.
They are the Rats down in South Florida. They throw them when they win.
A rat joining some rats.
I know you're not an Oiler fan, but it feels like you've kind of become one. McDavid is obviously just unreal.
I want Connor McDavid to win a cup. I also have a futures ticket on Edmonton winning the Stanley Cup.
When did you
year.
place it?
January? No, they went through like a rough 2-week stretch in the middle of the year.
Oh, you bought on the dip?
I bought on the dip, bought low, did not sell high, felt great after game one. Then they scored a goal with 30 seconds to go in the game on Friday night, sent it to OT. I'm feeling fantastic.
Yep.
And then that happened in double overtime.
Devastating?
That was a pretty tough one to give up. Yeah, when you have a miracle comeback like they did, essentially scoring in the final minute with an extra attacker on the ice, that's one that you want to finish off because you don't get a lot of those opportunities. In Florida, ironically, even though they've blown 2 leads in this series, they've been one of the best. They're dominant when they have a lead because they got a great goaltender. They're really good defensively, so they're hard to come back against. Edmonton did it in game one, won the game in overtime. They did it again, and then ultimately couldn't win it. They had so many chances, though. Skinner for Edmonton was fantastic. Again, he made a bunch of huge saves in that first overtime.
The winner was weird.
It was really
I didn't
weird.
even see it go in. I just saw him celebrate, and then it was like a delayed call, and I'm like, wait, it trickled through his legs?
That can happen from time to time in hockey, where sometimes you see it set up, and you're like, you see the kill shot coming into your sights, and you're like, oh, this could be it. And then other times you're kind of half paying attention, trying to find the puck, and you realize, wait a minute. I think the game's over right now. They're all celebrating, and the red light's going off.
So is Edmonton OKC here, or are they on a deadline here with money? I don't know how hockey works.
They're not quite in that situation. No, they got a couple of their big guys already locked up, and McDavid is the
so
greatest.
They shouldn't be going anywhere.
McDavid is the greatest hockey player
probably
known
to
to
exist,
mankind,
right?
and he is not going anywhere anytime soon. And as long as that's the case, they'll have a chance.
The GOAT is Gretzky. He owns all the records. Some of those will never be touched. But is this a Mahomes-Brady thing where, like, if we're being honest, we go...
From a physical standpoint, yes.
Talent-wise, that guy's better than that other guy, but that other guy's career was amazing.
He is an absolute freight train. He had everybody who has not seen it should go watch the assist that he had. I want to say it was one of the first period was nuts. It was 3-2, so it was like fireworks right out of the gate. Everybody was scoring, and some people liked the under going into the game, and it was like, well, that's going to hit maybe at the end of the first period because I think the over-under was 5.5 or 6.5, so it easily hit. But he had a play where he essentially deked through like 3 Panther defenseman and just had an unbelievable pass to Draisaitl, who is his running mate, who's another one of the best offensive players in the league, and that they scored a goal on that situation. He is kind of a man amongst boys, but Florida is the overall better team. That's the equivalent.
Going back to Florida now, where do you think this goes?
I mean, I think Florida's probably going to win, but I'm going to continue to root
because
for
they've
Edmonton.
had the lead in both games?
They're a more trustworthy team, and they're a deeper team.
They're so tough.
This is like, you don't want to make like LeBron comparisons, but there's a little bit of that with some of those Cleveland teams that he made it on. Like, Edmonton's good. I don't want to downplay the rest of the roster.
He has an MVP teammate.
Leon Draisaitl is elite. There's no doubt about it. And Skinner has been playing great in the playoffs, but there is a bit of like, he is the guy he is the engine.
He's kind of carrying everybody.
He is kind of hauling everybody on his back, whereas Florida can just come at you in waves. Like Marchand has been unreal for them in the playoffs. He had 2 goals in that game. One of them was a shorthanded goal that was a bit of a backbreaker for Edmonton when they were on the power play, and then obviously the game winner. And he's an unforgotten guy, or a forgotten guy, I should say, when you look at some of their top scorers.
I know not everybody in our audience watches hockey or cares. The Stanley Cup's been great.
Dude, the first game,
it's been great.
First 2 games went to overtime.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often.
You can ask for more.
The first double overtime game in the Stanley Cup final, I think, in 4 or 5 years, so we haven't had one of those in a while. It's going to be a tight competitive series in every game. There will not be any blowouts. That's what I feel good about.
Well, it was a lot of fun to watch a double OT thriller.
It's awesome, man.
I don't know what's going on half the time, but I am like, damn, this hockey. It's intense.
It's that time of year where we all say, you know what, we should really watch more hockey, and then nobody ever ends up watching more hockey because it's a great product.
It's okay. It happens to basketball all the time. The game was good. I should watch regular.
No, not good. Enjoy it for a couple of weeks, and then we'll say bon voyage.
We have a loaded second hour. The Oregon State Beavers have punched their ticket to Omaha. We'll get to that. Mitch Canham, I thought, had a really good cut in the postgame. We'll talk with Mike Doc Parker at 8:15 about it. We'll get to the NCAA House settlement that was finally solved yesterday. Dan Wetzel, our good friend at ESPN, will join us for the Daily Ticker. It is a loaded second hour. Dirt and Sprague, please join us on The Fan next.
Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Oregon State Beavers were able to punch their ticket to the College World Series with a 14-10 victory over the Florida State Seminoles in Game 3 of the Corvallis Super Regional. Beavers are going to take on Louisville in their first game in Omaha. One game going on in the NHL Stanley Cup Final. That one's going to be down in Florida for Game 3 between the Panthers and Oilers. Right now, Panthers are favored at minus 140 on the money line. Puck drop at 5. Right now, that series is tied at 1-1. That game can be heard on 910 ESPN Portland, starting with a pregame show at 4:30. A couple of NFL stories. The Green Bay Packers have announced that they will release two-time Pro Bowl cornerback Jair Alexander. The Packers and Alexander have been working on a new contract before today's news was released. Texans and running back Nick Chubb, they are expected to reach an agreement on a one-year contract. Chubb does have to pass his physical for this agreement to go into effect. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom, call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
It's back, the 11th annual
Morning edition. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Ah, what a great Monday. Nice weekend, good weather. Walked last night at around 8:30. I'm like, this is exactly what I want to live in. Felt like it was 80 degrees.
Is the temp. That's where you want to be.
I like it warm.
A little bit warm late in the day is nice.
Yeah.
When the sun's gone down, it's not quite beating on you the way it is earlier in the day. It feels good.
If you missed the first hour, you can always catch our podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, 1080fan.com, etc. Dirt doesn't have air conditioning.
No, I've been up since 1:45. So, things are going
Like one of
great.
those tossing and turning, you sleep for 10 minutes and
No,
wake
like
up.
legitimately up since 1:45. The little guy was up for about 4 hours last night. And then it gets to a point where you're like, there's no point in going back to sleep because at this point it's like 3:40, and that's just not a good idea.
Do you and your wife fight over like who does the overnight thing, given your job?
She does
works a
the
lot, too.
majority of the heavy lifting
Okay.
overnight. It was one where he was already up for like an hour and a half, and then it was like, I don't know what to do. And
I
I'm
can't
like,
sleep.
Fine, I'll get up. It's loud. He's crying. I'm already awake anyways, and I'm sweating and sticking to the sheets to begin with. So maybe I'll go walk around outside.
We'll talk with Dan Wetzel. The NCAA House settlement has finally been figured out.
Woohoo!
And now we're going to get a new version of cheating, I think, in college football.
Where do you want all your money to go in Corvallis? All to basketball.
I got to be honest. And if we have text police that can help me here, are we in the lawsuit? Because not every team was in the lawsuit.
Yeah, I don't really know. I haven't followed it that closely in terms of, I know a lot of former athletes are in the lawsuit. I don't know if any universities technically were.
Well, the Big Ten and SEC schools were involved with it because they want to try to get some of this squared, I believe. Is what
Well,
I
sure.
read.
They're now like the leading government body of this
basically,
new
yeah.
entity. The Power Four get to call all the shots.
Well, the
which
AAC
that'll end up well.
is going to have a $10 million allotment for their salary cap versus like Oregon, et cetera, is going to
Sure.
start at 20.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to jump to the 30s.
I
within
think
a year
every
or
school
two.
can do 20 if they want to. You don't have to spend all 20, but you have up to $20 million to spend if you want to.
And all the players are going to spend 20. We know that, okay?
Yes.
But there is an interesting part of this, despite the cheating element that's definitely going to happen. How much of your school's salary cap, quote unquote, because the other thing is you can still do NIL and the collectives can still pay, although a report says 70% of collectives would not be approved.
This is such nonsense.
But 90% of NIL contracts would be.
Yeah.
They're going to figure out how to make them all approved. We know this because they've been cheating for years.
Yeah.
So, like, they have a salary cap, but they can still be paid on the side by the NIL, and that doesn't count against the cap.
Yeah.
I don't know how to sort this out, but if we're going by the cap, just the cap, how much of it do you want towards football, I think is going to be an interesting conversation for people. because I'm an Oregon State guy, and I'm telling you, I'd be spending not as much on football as I would on men's basketball being relevant again.
Sure.
Women's basketball continuing to be a juggernaut, and I want that baseball team to succeed.
Just keep going to Omaha every year.
Exactly.
Best team money can buy. So I think the reports are from most of the power players in college athletics that they're estimating of spending $15-ish million a year on football.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's somewhere in the range of $3 million to $4 million on men's basketball, and then the rest of it goes to everybody else. So the majority of the money will be spent on the two revenue
I would assume
generating
so, yes.
sports. That's just the way it's going to work, and that's no different than what NIL payments are, right? Like there are some unique outliers that make a lot of money in other sports, but for the most part, the high NIL earners are in football and men's basketball. This is the most NCAA response to a problem that I've ever seen. And by that, I mean it's just going to create a whole nother set of problems. Like, there's been some reporting on this in reaction to it that this is the end. Look at this. We found a solution. We have a salary cap. Everything's going to be above the board. We're going to get an even playing field. None of these big NIL boosters are going to come in and buy teams. Like, this is going to end horribly for them. Mark my words. There will be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. How do you get away with telling somebody what they can or cannot be paid in a free market system? How is that possibly going to work without lawsuits? There's already a follow-up lawsuit that we've seen. Do you remember the kid at Wisconsin who transferred to Miami about a year ago?
He was touting that he had a 2-year deal, but he didn't care and he left anyway.
He signed this new revenue-sharing agreement, which a lot of schools have made their players start signing over the last year and a half to 2 years, thinking that this was on the horizon. Mm-hmm. He signed it with Wisconsin and then still ended up bailing and transferring to Miami, and they're now heading to court to see if these are enforceable contracts. Like, we all know where the end result is, and the end result is in collective bargaining and a union and paying players and having this be essentially professional sports, which it basically is becoming. But that we, of course, have to do a quarter measure, and there will be more lawsuits. And good luck telling rich people who spend money in their NIL collectives what they can or cannot spend on athletes. It's going to be hilarious to see the response.
We'll talk with Wetzel at 7:30 about it. This happened late last night. Doc Parker.
Keljo comes set. Nelly's 3-2 pitch taken. Strike three called. The Beavers return to Omaha. Nelson Keljo flexes, throws his glove towards his own dugout, and is mobbed by his teammates as the Beavers celebrate the return to the College World Series, winning the decisive Super Regional game by a final score. The Beavers 14, Florida State 10. A wild one, an exciting one from start to finish. Next stop for the Beavers, Omaha, Nebraska. And listen to these fans at Goss Stadium chanting Omaha.
So Mike, Doc Parker, and Learfield Sports on the call there.
Look at those Beavs.
They get back to the Omaha College World Series for the first time since 2018. It'd been a minute since they'd gotten there.
That doesn't seem like that was that long ago, does it?
But it is, too.
It is,
It's
I know.
like both. Both are true. But they punched their ticket again. Canham proves he's not a choke artist, even though Oregon State fan during the first game was asking if he lost the clutch gene for the program. There was literally somebody that responded to Kerry Eggers like, he doesn't got the Casey clutch gene. I'm not saying it.
He doesn't have that it factor. He's lacking in the it category.
Well, the game of the series was really Friday. Sunday was a just blockbuster of scoring, 24 combined runs. It got interesting at the end there. Saturday was a pitcher's duel.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, I didn't think I'd say this. I was really annoyed by the broadcast Saturday.
How come?
Because Oregon State's pitcher had a better performance than Jamie Arnold, who was going to be the number one pick in the draft, but they kept just jocking Jamie Arnold.
Who was the color analyst on those games? Do we know his name?
Travis.
He's a former Florida State.
I
Seminole.
couldn't tell that he was a He didn't mention it 8,642 times over that three-game series.
I had to listen to Papa Ortner complain about it for an hour.
Dude, good
in
for
the
Papa
prelude.
Ortner.
He
I
was
was
very upset.
I have no rooting interest. Well, actually, that's not true. I root for Oregon State at this point. My team's never been to Omaha, and I don't really care that much. So it's like, go Beavs. This is what you guys got, and I'm happy for you that you get a little satisfaction out of the weekend. Even I was sitting in my house this weekend yelling at the television at this bro. Like, we get it, dude. We understand that you went to Florida State. You've never won a championship. Don't they have the record for most Omaha appearances?
Like 25 appearances.
25 times
crazy.
they've been, and they've never won a championship in this sport. Like, get the hell out of here, dude. You're playing a program who's got 3 of these things, and you're acting like Florida State baseball is God's gift to earth.
Well, it's not only that he told us he went to Florida State and played in the bigs. I don't know if you know that he played in the bigs. He also wanted to tell you 80,000 times, I've never been to Gas Stadium. It's quite an atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And then he would mention Florida State stadium 17 times after that, and how it's the greatest atmosphere in all of college baseball.
Well, I just love that we have. I mean, this was a real thing. It's not a big percentage. Again, I think it's the smallest of minorities I'm talking about. But you had Beaver fan legitimately.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I don't know if this guy can win the big one.
It's so
Casey
stupid.
Wednesday Skypes.
Yeah.
And with 2 out in the bottom of the 9th inning, down 4-1, they come back and tie the game, walk it off in extras. And I think Carrie ended up retweeting like, well, this didn't age well, did it? It's like, yeah, clutch gene stuff is the dumbest of stuff to talk about. But Oregon State fought back Friday. They tied it up. They won it. Saturday, pitchers duel. Florida State just bested them. The bullpen couldn't hold it for Oregon State. Kleinschmidt was unbelievable for them. Went over 110 pitches. Only gave up 1 run. Like, he was lights out. Bullpen blows the game. Offense doesn't get it going. And then off the bat, just first inning, you got 7-2, just instantly. And I don't want to tout too much because I didn't know who was really going to win the series.
Sure.
What did I text you in Swag?
That you needed 11 runs yesterday.
I said Oregon State needs 11 or more runs if they're going to win this game. How many runs did Florida State finish
They
with?
ended up with 10 runs.
Boom!
Boom, bitch.
You just felt like those bats were going to get going at some point, and I didn't know how much I trusted Oregon State's pitching to hold them down. That was fun, and they're going back to Omaha for the 9th time.
My college baseball takeaways from the weekend are, 1, the umpires are terrible.
Jesus,
Horrible.
The strike zones. What are their strike zones?
Strike zones all over the map. Even that strike to end the game.
It was terrible.
That
He
was
picked it up.
definitely a ball. And I'm like, wait, the game's over? Because the kid was like started walking towards first base. I think it was a full count, if I'm not wrong. And he was like walking to first base, and then they pan over to the pitcher, and he's like throwing his glove in the air. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess the game's over. So the umpires are terrible. Watching games without a strike zone, first world problems, really frustrating. Like, I need the superimposed strike zone.
I kind of liked it.
You like going old school?
Well, because I think this for both teams. I actually didn't think they were good strike zones. I thought Oregon
went
State
both
got
ways,
calls
yeah.
that were I'm like, that's like the last pitch to your point. I'm like, that's not a strike.
That definitely wasn't a strike.
But I think that was like, you know what? I'm going to get the crowd on my side.
14-10. This game's going on 4 hours, dude. I want to go home.
How easy. My takeaway is kind of the same thing. Like, how easy in college it is to manipulate those dudes. Just throw it a little low, catch, and then instantly bring up. They're calling
frame
it a
it.
strike.
Frame it. You're going to get
Frame
the call.
it good, and you're getting the call.
So those were my 2 big takeaways from the weekend, outside of the Florida State guy on the broadcast being absolutely insufferable for the entire time. It was the pucker factor yesterday had to have been relatively strong, I would imagine, considering how Saturday went and then how the game started. Because you don't win Saturday. Friday night was a game that could have gone either way. You got a little lucky there late. We're pulling one out. All right, we found a way to win.
Yeah.
Then you lose Saturday. Then they immediately jump on you in the first inning.
I was
right
like,
out of the
oh,
gate,
no,
you're like,
here we
oh.
go.
And then you score 7. You just turn
Crazy.
around and score 7 on them. And there's no better feeling. Like, I know there were a few moments later in the game where you're like, okay, can we just like not walk guys and maybe not load the bases every inning? But there's nothing better than a celebration game at home with great weather, and it's essentially a non-sweater. Like, you go up 7-2, and you're immediately like, we're going to win this thing, aren't we?
I'm going to push back on you, buddy.
Were you sweating bullets still?
Yeah. I really was.
Then wanted to turn into like 11-3
Yeah,
at one point.
because Caraway gets up, bases loaded, and I remember saying out loud, "Got to be nice if you hit a dinger here." And I even did in that voice. And then whatever it was later, he hits the home run grand slam. Even at 11-3, I'm like,
You're still sweating that one?
I was. They're a good team.
I know they're a good team.
They had good offense, and then like they got some runs back, and slowly but surely, and then they go back up 10, and then they cut back into and I'm just like, oh, when they got to 10. Even the last batter, I'm like, oh, God, just get out of this inning.
Just
get out
end
of this
the damn
inning.
thing already, please.
So I'm telling you, I'm raising my hand. I had pucker factor all the way into the end, which is why I stayed up till 9:35 to watch this thing.
God, that thing did end late. The other thing, too, about the umpiring in those games, we need a time limit on reviews. Like, this happened a couple of times in Oregon's regional, too, when I was watching them, and the Women's College World Series, to be honest.
Yeah.
Dude, the reviews are insanely long.
Yeah.
That play at first base where did his hand get into
Did you think it was safe or out?
I mean, to me, it was
I saw
a tie.
two angles that said
I know.
they got it, and then I saw an angle that said Oregon State got it, and I'm like, if I can't decide overall, it should be the call on the field, right?
Should stand, right? There's not enough evidence to overturn it, but of course they overturn it, and of course the review took like 10 minutes. And I'm just, you get 2 minutes here, all right? If you can't figure this thing out in 2 minutes, this isn't an NBA situation where you got to put time back on the clock and figure that crap out. This is just, was he out or was he not out? Right. Just move on to the next play. That kind of stuff is insufferable.
There is something else that you mentioned with delaying the game I want to talk about from that game. Canham punching his ticket for the first time as a manager to Omaha. It's a great story having an alum that, won 2 World Series with them doing it. So we'll get to that coming up next, and then we'll talk with Dan Wetzel coming up at the bottom of the hour. Dirt and Sprague back with more on the Fan. And now Dirt and Sprague. from time to time, I would say probably more than time to time, Dirt and I have to give opinions, and then we end up coming in being way wrong. And I appreciate when people say, hey, that was me. I wasn't right.
Hand up. I was wrong on that one.
The listener, one of our listeners, I guess, was the one that did it, that I was referencing about the clutch gene. He says, hey, I'm the guy who said the clutch gene. I'm so happy to be wrong. Hell yeah, man. It's okay to be wrong. That's okay.
It's a good thing when it happens to your team, because then at least there's a little bit of happiness at the outcome of it.
Right. Want to remind you guys, Tuesday, June 24th. Put it on your calendar now. Make plans. If you haven't done so already, go to 1080thefan.com because your local Toyota dealers presents the 11th annual Fan Golf Classic out at Langdon Farms Golf Club. My God, is it right around the corner?
It's 2 weeks from tomorrow.
It's 2 weeks. Well,
right?
Yeah, it's Tuesday. June
2
24th.
weeks from tomorrow.
Tuesday.
When the hell did that come up?
June 24th, brought to you, of course, by Henderson and Daughter Windows and Doors and Philbrook Law Accident Injury Lawyers. Victor Rico's Breakfast Burritos on hand, lunch as well. Matt's Barbecue will be on hand, too. We'll be hanging out. You can go to 1080thefan.com to purchase your foursome for the morning round because the afternoon round is gonzo.
And the morning round usually ends up being the one you want to play. Considering the heat this weekend, we might get a day like that. Get out there, nice little dew on the grass early in the morning. It's a delightful time to play golf.
So, you know, I've been mentioning this. I think the Oregon State not getting to the not getting to Omaha with Canham and the whole, like, is he the guy to lead it? I haven't liked it. I think it's overreactionary. I think he's a good alum coach who's highly thought of. There was a good story. I just retweeted it this morning from Corey Brock, our good friend who used to cover the Mariners. He wrote a piece about Canham turning down a Mariners opportunity to go be the coach at Oregon State.
Yeah.
It was a dream job being a Mariner guy, and he turned it down for the ultimate dream job, and that's to run his alma mater. And because they haven't been to Omaha since Casey left, it's been this whole, like, this, I don't think this guy can do it. I don't like what this guy does. I think they're lacking this. They're lacking that. And I don't know if they're going to win the World Series. It's a big ask to go win the World Series. It's been a weird tournament. There's not a lot of high-ranked teams here. I just think it's such a good story of Mitch Canham leading Oregon State back to Omaha, being the guy that says, you know what, I haven't won the whole thing. It's hard to do that, but getting to Omaha in itself is a huge achievement, and he did it for the first time for his alma mater.
I mean, it's one of those, you're just going to slowly get the monkeys off your back, and this was the first one for him to get rid of. And now you've been to Omaha, so a lot of that dumb chatter will hopefully die down. It is funny how quickly we expect, especially considering his first year at Oregon State was the COVID year, where the season's canceled 2 weeks in and they don't even play the rest of the season. That was his first year. So when you essentially look at it, he's now had 5 full seasons. Well, this one's not quite finished, but you get my point. He's been to a regional every year he's been there. He's been to 3 super regionals now, and now finally a College World Series. And so this idea that he's been disappointing or hasn't lived up to the hype, like, we expect greatness so quickly, and for you to just simply put it together like a snap of a finger when that's not the reality, especially in a sport like baseball, man, where Oregon State won a national title because Arkansas couldn't catch a pop fly.
Yeah, they shouldn't have had that.
That
title.
was one of their titles. That's baseball in a nutshell.
Right.
Sometimes you get breaks. Sometimes the team gets hot. Sometimes a hitter carries you. Sometimes a pitcher carries you. And a lot of those things happened the last time Oregon State won a title, and now you find yourself in Omaha. And I feel like everything on this point out is icing on the cake. Like, he's gotten a big monkey off of his back. Any of that chatter should go away. He clearly can win big games. He can clearly get them there. And I think he deserves far more credit than most coaches usually deserve, considering the circumstances that they were in. Their conference abandoned them. Everybody else in Oregon State athletics essentially took a step back. I know the women's basketball ended up making the tournament, and that was an awesome story for them to win their conference this year. But everybody,
they lost that whole roster.
They lost everybody else has regressed to a certain point, and that was to be expected. Baseball has not. And his idea, I don't know how much it was him or the athletic department or who was the driving force behind it, but
it was him.
To go independent was huge, and it got them home field advantage in a super regional because they played a butt ton of road games this year, and it helped their RPI. And so he deserves a ton of credit for getting them there, and I'm rooting for him to go win another national championship.
We got this cut from Brenna Green of Coin. Here is him last night, Mitch Canham, in the postgame on Oregon State punching the ticket to Omaha.
I'm overwhelmed with emotion. What an incredible game. What an incredible way that it was supposed to happen. You knew that it would. And we maximized our amount of home games to make everyone happy. Omaha's in the Beaver blood, man. And so, it would be the first time stepping in that stadium, first time for me, first time for each and every one of these guys, except for Zach Taylor. But for each of us to just know that that's our home too. And I know Beaver Nation's going to show up and pour into these guys the entirety of the time. I'm so excited for you guys to see it.
Me and Mitch Canham are the same age.
That's pretty wild.
I look at him and I'm like, man, you look like a distinguished man.
you got your life put together.
I still feel like a little boy sometimes.
Way to go, Mitch! Yeah, I'm almost there, Mitch. Go Beavs! Going to Omaha.
2 takeaways too from this. One, and I'm coming late to the party. I say this every year. I'm always honest. I know Beaver fan watches year round. That's a diehard. I follow it. I don't watch it. One, this new wave of college baseball. Actually, there's a couple things. Let me get a couple things off this. I love what they do in college baseball when they replace the pitcher and the pitcher has to wait to hand the ball to the reliever.
You like that one? You stand on the mound until he comes
classy.
out.
I just think it screams team versus hand it to the manager, be pissed off, walk away, other guy runs out and trumpets. The other thing is college baseball, and I don't know if Major League Baseball kind of has the same thing, but they take timeouts and then an offensive coordinator goes out there and talks to a hitter.
Yeah.
Did you notice that this weekend?
It's very unique and strange.
Very, very different. I'm not used to it. It throws me off.
Does not happen in Major League Baseball.
And the final thing is, and you talked about the delay in this game, they had to meet several times to warn the teams because there was a little back and forth. College baseball just fully leans into the trash talk, and I love it.
It is so bro-y.
I do.
It's so over the top bro-y.
It.
It's like the epitome of baseball culture of the hair, the eye black, the sunglasses.
Yep.
It is straight. Every single college baseball player looks like they're straight out of Central Casting. That if you just picture in your head, what does a college baseball player look like? I feel like 97% of them look exactly like that when you turn on a game. Yeah. A lot of that going on this weekend. Some of it does get annoying for me. The offensive coordinator meetings are hilarious. Like you can get away with
saying there,
just going out like chatting it up.
Is he just delaying the pitcher, or is he like, hey, look for the fastball, look for the curve, look for the breaking, like? What really is the conversation? All right, we got to be aggressive here, but not too aggressive. Like, all right, coach, I think that's what I was trying to do.
I mean, it's one thing if you end up laying down a bunt. At least there was some sort of discussion that led to a result there. But if not,
I'm not saying the guy doesn't do anything
on the field. You know,
want to know what that conversation is.
Let's just chat it up, man. The atmosphere looked like it was awesome down there. And for Canham, dude, like you know that he hears some of this chatter. Like everybody is human, and everybody's going to get wind of it from time to time.
How about the beer wall, by the way?
The beer wall was phenomenal behind home plate.
Boy, that became its own meme.
Stacking that thing up, dude.
Now, were those really... Somebody asked me, like, hey, were those really drank by those people right there?
No chance. That was a collaborative effort.
Did somebody bring cans in from home and say, I had to get a couple empties from last weekend?
I think that was a communal effort. Like, everybody in the front saw that somebody started it, and then they just started stacking their fresh empties.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Like, everybody wants to be a part of it. It's like when you get those snakes out in the outfield. Everybody's drinking one, and then you add one on top of the snake. Like, that's how you do it.
There's a good atmosphere down there. I wish the crowd would have been mic'd a little more because I kept seeing that they were saying it's the loudest they'd ever heard it.
Well, it's not as loud as Florida State Stadium, according to the broadcast. Florida State Stadium's the loudest in the country.
It's probably bigger.
I mean, they have all those national championship banners. Oh, wait, no, they don't. Sorry, just checking. Sorry.
There's 3 of those, Florida State.
That's right. They don't have any of those in baseball. 0 of those.
He should be commended more, not only for doing it for his alma mater, but like navigating the waters of this conference bowl.
Not easy to do, man.
Being an independent, and I just kept thinking, was it better for Oregon State football to have gone independent versus joining the Mountain West? Well, but I don't know how that was.
You didn't join the Mountain West. You've reformed the Pac-12.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though. Like
I know what you mean.
Agreement, a scheduling agreement. Yeah. And again, maybe that's what Barnes tried, or maybe Bray was advocating for it. I haven't seen clear cut. Did they try or did they not? But it worked for Oregon State baseball, and I know football is different, but I commend him for that. It couldn't have been easy to have to go through that situation.
Well, and one Beaver baseball P1 texted in and basically said it further solidifies them as the program on the West Coast, which isn't undoubted. Yeah. Like, you're not even in the conference anymore, and you're still going to Omaha. First time in a while that you've been there.
I also kind of already thought that was
already the case. So, you've won 3 national championships. That kind of solidifies it, and now you're going back to Omaha as an independent. It's pretty badass. Football is such a different animal. I don't know if it would have worked.
I don't know if it would have worked
because you need the
either.
conference affiliation to have a pathway pathway to the playoff.
But you weren't going to go to a playoff this year.
Well, not. Oh, are you saying just in the short term?
Yeah, just in this short term.
Well, that's essentially what they are. They are
Pac-12.
essentially an independent right now.
I mean,
for 2 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
but half that schedule's Mountain West.
not anymore. It's not.
Well, but it is.
Now
Because
you're
it's
playing
last year
some
for those
Tulsas.
teams.
You're playing some Lafayette.
Yeah, I guess this year it's more independent-ish. I'll give you that.
You got the Cougs twice on there, Pac-2 championship.
Let's not talk about that.
But you need, Oregon State baseball can live in this world. Football needs a pathway to the postseason.
What about hoops?
That's the only way they can do it. Independent makes sense in hoops. All those similar thing. You win your conference in hoops, you can still go.
Or get fifth in the WCC, and how's that reflect on you?
Now you got Gonzaga. You ain't beating them.
Yeah, well.
So, yeah.
Let's go to the Daily Ticker. Dan Wetzel, our good friend. The NCAA House settlement has been solved, but will it fix anything? We'll talk with Dan Wetzel for the Daily Ticker next on The Van.
This is a U.S. Open Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Sports Center is brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, the NHL heads south to Florida for Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. Panthers are favored on the money line over the Oilers at -140. Series is tied at 1-1. Puck drop going to be at 5, but you can hear that game on 910 ESPN Portland, starting with the pregame show at 4:30. Big day for the Beavs. The Oregon State Beavers punched their ticket to the College World Series with a 14-10 victory over Florida State in Game 3 of the Corvallis Super Regional. Beavers are going to take on Louisville in their first game in Omaha. The Seattle Mariners are back in action tonight, starting a new series with the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Emerson Hancock on the mound for the Mariners. Merrill Kelly on the mound for Arizona. First pitch scheduled for 6:40. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
More, please. Golf born at the beach.
All right, Daily Ticker Time on a Monday, brought to you as always by our great friends at Pelican Brewing Company. The return of warmer weather, boy, was it this weekend. Even our man over there, Will Ortner, was over at the coast drinking a Pelicano. Their summer seasonal beer, it is back, available in clear glass bottles. It is refreshment that you can see. I don't know if you know this, but all of our problems in college athletics have been solved. The House settlement has been approved.
How about that?
A new era of kumbaya will take over, and joining us now to talk about that is Dan Wetzel, good friend of the program, at Dan Wetzel on Twitter. Go give him a follow, ESPN senior writer and a New York Times best-selling author. Dan, good morning to you. Is this the end to all of our college athletic issues that we've been dealing with over the last couple of years? What are the big takeaways from the House settlement this weekend?
Yeah, good luck with that. The issues are it's the feature, not the bug of college athletics. It's supposed to be totally chaotic. It's a ridiculous concept, right? The whole thing is ridiculous. 134 different football teams playing for one title, schools attached, big, it's just the whole thing. So no, not ending anything. Look, this is their attempt at, they've been screaming for guardrails and limits and stability and all these things. A lot of old school coaches, particularly athletic departments and things like that. That's been their rallying cry the last few years. The wild, wild west is what college sports have become. I think it's always been the wild, wild west. We had like an FBI investigation a few years ago with like 10 guys got indicted. Like that was pretty wild.
SMU existed back in the 80s.
The Wild West is fun. Like, how many great movies did we watch? The Wild West is not so bad. But yeah, that's what they're going with. We will see how it plays out. This is an attempt to, obviously, just on a simple overview, like, amateurism is officially dead in college athletics. The concept held on for, 40 years past even the Olympics gave up on it. But schools will pay athletes directly with shares of media rights and ticket sales and all of their direct budget. So there's that element right there. It's very historic. How these athletic departments will be able to manage that. They have built themselves up with the number of teams, the number of support staff, the salaries, the facilities that are so nice in so many of these places, based on a business model where they did not have to compensate the athletes, or whatever the compensation was. Basically, tuition, room, and board was relatively low. Now every major school is going to have a $20.5 million this year, and it'll go up to over $30 million in the next 10 years at least. A $20.5 million expenditure. So even the biggest schools, like an Ohio State, that's still 7-8% of new cost, right? Now maybe they can absorb it, but how do you absorb it at a smaller school? Can you afford all $20 million? Can you afford to spend $20 million and still have a swim program, or a tennis team, or things like that? Will sports get cut because of this? You have to, where do you invest the money? It's got to be in football and men's basketball, because those are the only sports that return dollars on investment that then funds the entire athletic department. So spending money on a star quarterback that fills your stadium and wins you games and does all that returns investment. You could get the best, swimmer, and it doesn't. Michael Phelps wasn't making money for wherever, so you can't. You have to invest in football and men's basketball. So can these other sports thrive? So there's a lot of issues there. Then there's just the practicality of, like, since when did anyone ever follow the rules in college athletics? Can you determine how much they're going to limit these NIL deals and say, well, we have an algorithm that tells you what's a real deal and what's not, what's within the market value or not? How is that going to sustain against legal challenges when you're talking about, the basic tenet of you are your value is whatever someone's willing to pay for it, right? So there's a million questions going forward, tons of uncertainty, but this was a step by the establishment of college athletics to create something that has some structure to it, whether it stands or not.
Well, I'm curious, Dan, your thoughts, because you wrote a really good piece on ESPN.com about, used Alabama as an example in talking with Greg Byrne, who's had really, notable stops at Arizona and now at Alabama. I'm kind of curious going forward. It's a weird thing. We have a salary cap, but we kind of don't, because NIL is still allowed as a side to pay players, and it's not going to count against your cap. They also have the collective issue, and the collectives, they say, are not things that should be approved. And so the collectives, are going to figure out how to make it approved. And so we do have a salary cap, but we really don't. And you talk about the old West, like, I feel like it's actually going to get dirtier somehow. Am I wrong in that read?
Yeah, I found the last few years, I get there's a lot of things fans don't like, particularly the transfer portal is what fans don't like. Well, they don't like it when players are transferring out. They like it when they transfer in, but they don't like the out. But there's a lot of things that fans understandably kind of reacted to, like, I'm not really comfortable with this, or this takes some used to, or I just don't like this, and all of that is fine. But I found that when things are on the table, opposed to under the table, it's just easier to know what's going on. And so if a player is sitting there saying, "Hey, I'll transfer to your school for $1 million," at least you know. Where it used to be like, well, is this did they underpay? We had NCAA investigators working parking lots to see who had what car and why is it, all of that stuff was always going on. So I found it to be actually more refreshing to just be wide open. I'm more of a free market person, just personally. Let the thing play out. It didn't bother me. It was wild, but a school that wanted to win at something could now win. Your historical success no longer was the predetermining factor of whether you could win. Look at Texas Tech's softball team, right? They made the final game. They almost won the championship. They're paying their star pitcher $1 million a year. They're going to pay her $1.2 million next year. That doesn't offend me. Like, I'm not okay. No, is Texas Tech ever that good in softball before? I don't personally know. But so what? If Texas Tech wants to be good in softball, let them. I think you saw in football, you saw what we went from even 6-7 years ago, where you were entering a season and it was basically like it's going to be Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, or like maybe Clemson, maybe LSU. That was the only teams that really had a chance to win. I think you're looking at 20, 25 programs that are competing to try to win. And you can bridge things like geography, right? You take programs in your state, the hardest part for Oregon and Oregon State, but certainly Oregon, is just you're not proximity to the talent. But when you can pay, and you can pay for the travel of people to come and visit and things like that, all of a sudden that matters less. And you can build a team that isn't sitting there saying, well, you can't be good because you're not located in Florida or Texas or something like that. And so we saw a lot more teams get really good. The last couple of years, we've had Notre Dame and TCU play for the championship. That was never happening before. Michigan won it. They hadn't been a real contender in a long time. Ohio State won it. They've been good. Penn State's going into the season maybe number one. Like, you're seeing, I'm not saying those are small operations. Oregon had the best regular season last year. These are big programs, but they weren't Georgia and Alabama, right? They weren't that level. So we saw a lot of stuff. Or Boise State wants to keep Ashton Jeanty and have this big year. They can pay him, keep him, great. So I never had a problem with all that. They're trying to condense that and say, well, we're going to determine whether this deal is, did you really earn $1 million? Like, if you're Caitlin Clark and you're with State Farm, or is this just a workaround to pay? I kind of was fine with the workaround.
Yeah, well, all of that is just going to lead to more litigation, which will be interesting. Dan,
who's going to decide what's an approvable deal?
Right, it's just
versus
ridiculous.
Saying, like, no, that's not
to
okay.
Dan's point on the free market, how can you tell somebody what they are or are not worth? Good luck proving that.
I'll give you an
court.
example.
Yeah.
What was Caitlin Clark worth if you put her into an algorithm and said, okay, we have an All-American basketball player at Iowa, women's basketball player at Iowa. What is her national advertising market worth?
Right.
It's not much.
Yeah.
Until you're Caitlin Clark and you're the most marketable athlete in all of sports.
Yeah.
Then it's worth, she's underpaid.
Oh, 100%.
At the end of the day, yeah.
I was going to say half of whatever ESPN made during her run at Iowa was what she was worth.
Right. She ends up being underpaid opposed to, but how do you market? You say, well, she's not worth anything. In an algorithm, you say that person gets 50 grand, and it's like, no, I get 20 million.
Yeah.
And because I'm Caitlin Clark. So how do you figure that out? Would they have denied all of those deals? That wouldn't be fair to her. So needless to say, there is going to be lawyers involved. The one thing, the most undefeated team in all of college athletics is billable hours.
Lawyers are getting really rich off of this. Dan Wetzel's our guest, ESPN senior writer. He's got a great piece up on this at ESPN.com at Dan Wetzel, as well as his Twitter page. You can go find it there. Last one I got for you, Dan, is just, I come at this from the perspective of it feels like a very NCAA fix where it's basically like a quarter measure, and there's going to be so much more fallout from this, as we're just talking about. Does this end, and I don't know if it's in 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 15 years, who knows, does this end in any other way other than collective bargaining, unionization, full contracts? Like, it seems like that's where all of this is heading, but we're trying to do everything we can to solve the problem before we get to what the ultimate solution will be.
Yeah, the hill they seem to be willing to die on is not letting athletes be employees of the school, even though the schools employ tons of students.
Yeah,
they do not want them to be they don't want to be employees. That could cost them a lot. Of the smaller sports could get cut and things like that. I get some of their concerns. I just don't know how you get there. You basically need to make them employees, and then you need to collectively bargain. And by the way, this players' union of college athletes would be extremely weak. A union's only power is its ability to strike, and you're never getting 10,000 athletes to all agree. It's hard to get 1,000 people at a parts manufacturer in one town in Ohio to agree to a strike, and they're all of the same. They live next to each other. They make the same amount of money. They go to the same schools. Their kids are in the Little League team together, and it's hard to do. You're never getting college athletes to strike. It's never happening. So it's actually a pretty weak union, but you also have rules all over the country, like public employees can't be in unions or this or that. There's 50 different laws. So at some point, they're going to have to be employees. They're trying this. Maybe it buys them X number of years, but I don't see how in the end the Supreme Court is going to say, cool. I don't see how boosters and coaches are going to be like, you're right, I'm not going to pay someone a little extra on the side, or I'm not going to try to bend this rule. We've never seen that in generations of history, and I'm not really sure how this actually works in the end. But this is the attempt, and this is where we're at. Step one.
Yeah.
Big step, but step one.
Final one for you, Dan, because we appreciate your time this morning. We love having you on the program. You wrote a great piece. Do you think that they solved the portal problem? Not so much that kids can't transfer ever eventually, but just the year to year, season to season. Like, it's hard to follow these teams now, no matter how much of a diehard you are. Football is tough because there's so many players. Basketball, it's like, how invested do I get? They're all going to be gone next year. Do you think that they'll ultimately kind of figure that part of it out?
Not until they can collectively bargain. I don't know. It's a federal judge in West Virginia who ruled that the portal can go. How do you make someone go to school somewhere?
Yeah, touche.
At the end, those are the things the judge comes up with, right? Like, okay, I think everyone would agree we shouldn't have two transfer portals in football. You shouldn't be able to transfer after the season and then after spring practice.
Yes.
Just logistically. You can be pro player, but at the same time, how do you tell someone who goes through spring practice, sees they're not going to play, and wants to transfer to somewhere else they can play, or just sits there after their spring? Kids transfer colleges all the time. But you know what? I want to move back home. I want to go there. And then you get into this waiver process, which was one of the problems, and teams denying it. And everyone's got an uncle on dialysis or something. They got to go home and, some sob story. It's just like at some point you either have to have a contract with someone like, nah, you're here for 2 years, or you ain't playing, you ain't going to college. But how do you deny someone the ability to earn a living or pursue an education? The Sherman Antitrust Act is very, very pesky for the NCAA. They're not big believers in it, but the Supreme Court is. And so this is a real tough thing. The transfer portal, it can be very, very frustrating, but it's not a simple solution of just being like, can't leave. Because if it was your kid, if it was you were the player, you'd be like, hey, I got a better opportunity here. And if you work without a contract, right, at any job, and someone else comes in and says, hey, we'll offer you more money or we'll offer you a better opportunity, you're allowed to go. Now, if you sign a contract, you might have to play that out, or there's going to be remedies. But if you don't, and you can't just sit there and say, well, I turned down this job this week, but another job came in the next week. Like, there's no window. So even the windows could be considered illegal. It's very complicated. They're trying to jam a square peg in a round hole, and they've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, great stuff. Dan Wetzel, ESPN senior writer, New York Times best-selling author, at Dan Wetzel on Twitter. Go check out his great work on this. The column is up at ESPN.com and his Twitter account. We appreciate the time, man, all breaking down all of this. Hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Take care. Appreciate you.
There you go. Dan Wetzel of ESPN. Yeah, this is going to end well. The Daily Ticker brought to you by Pelican Brewing Company. With the return of warmer weather, Pelican brings back its summer seasonal beer, Pelicano, available in clear glass bottles. It's refreshment that you can see. What the hell's going on? We'll try and break it down next on The Fan.
Who's
A little long there. My apologies to the BM. Wasn't my fault. Dan Wetzel wouldn't shut up.
We broke late. That was it was all my fault. Put it on me, not Dan. Dan's a good friend of the program.
Dan's a great friend of the program. That was great information. And I do want to talk a little bit about this to start the final hour of the show.
I think it's massive.
So Mike Parker is going to join us at 8:15. Basically, the bullet points of this are the House settlement has been approved. This has been discussed for God knows how long. It's one of those that's like been in the background of my mind, but I'm not paying that close of attention to it because we're just like, when are we going to get there? It finally gets approved. And essentially the bullet points are it establishes a direct pay-to-play system with the universities to the athletes. They're all going to have about $20 million to give to their athletes. You can break it down however you want it. It is supposed to limit the NIL money being outrageous, which will not happen, but we'll see how that all plays out. And they have basically created this new, something clearinghouse or clearhouse or something that is going to oversee every single NIL dollar contract that is more than $600 has to go through this approval process in order for them to sign off on it and for the athlete to be paid. And they have an algorithm that they have created to basically estimate what your worth is on the open market in an NIL situation. So how will this all play out? The weird fallout and ramifications of it that maybe people aren't thinking about. I want to talk about that. We'll start the final hour there next on 1080 The Fan.
Reynolds Defense Firms.
Station. Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the NHL heads south to Florida for Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final today. Panthers are favored on the money line over the Oilers. Right now, that series is tied at 1-1, puck drop at 5. That game can be heard on 910 ESPN Portland, starting with the pregame show at 4:30. Mariners back in action tonight, starting a new series with the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Emerson Hancock on the mound for the Mariners, Merrill Kelly on the mound for Arizona. First pitch is scheduled for 6:40. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom, call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
It's back, the 11th annual
Final hour, Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, live on YouTube. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you're beating the heat and had a great weekend.
It's warm out there already, man.
It was toasty today, man. Toasty today. That sun was shining, though, when I left the house this morning. It felt fantastic.
I know sometimes it gets too hot, and we got to worry about people being overheated, not hydrating enough. Anytime I hear the clouds might be coming back, it's making me sad.
Is it? Yeah.
So I was asking the wife because she follows the weather, and she's like, it's supposed to be nice every day except Thursday, maybe?
Yeah.
Might be cloudy, but I'm like, oh, God.
Cloudy and 82. Not good enough for me anymore, all right? We've set the
sun.
standard high early in June.
Sun just makes me happy.
You got to live up to it the rest of the month. We got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. Mike Doc Parker's going to join us coming up in a little over 13 minutes, and we'll talk some Beaver baseball with him as they punch their ticket to Omaha last night down in Corvallis. The biggest sports news of the weekend probably was the House settlement finally being approved. So for those who don't know what's going on here, you should, but if you don't, essentially thousands of former athletes are now going to be paid a whopping $2.8 billion in back pay.
You thought this was bigger than Nick Chubb joining the Texans or the Packers cutting Jair Alexander?
Look, it's a coin flip. It could go either way, 51-49, if you will. But I would slightly lean this direction, although this is just going to be the first of a long series of lawsuits that basically the NCAA did not follow through with pursuing this because they were sued by all these former players, and they agreed to settle because if they lost a lawsuit, it could have cost them up to $10 billion. So it's not going to quite cost them that much, and they've decided to settle, and now we finally have the approval on it. A lot of notes out of this, and the direction that college athletics is going seems to be on as uncertain ground as we have ever seen. What was the biggest takeaway from you reading about all of this and what it means for college athletics?
Well, I guess I should have asked that question differently. I know it was dirtier and a more Wild West when we didn't know. So to Dan Wetzel's point, I'm glad at least it's out in the open. What I guess I mean is just because there's going to be a cap on how much you can spend doesn't mean you're not going to have a Texas go for $70 to $80 million with cap and booster money.
Yeah.
And so I think this world of college football has opened up the playing field. I don't think it has solved the playing field. I think you can be in Arizona State and you can say, look at us. We made a playoff. Yee! You're not beating Ohio State because Ohio State is going to spend more money and get more talent than you. Doesn't mean you can't have feel-good stories, have a Boise State in there once in a blue moon, but their celebration isn't a national championship. Their celebration is making it.
Yeah.
All the other players, the big-name players, will continue to be hoisting that trophy. So, yeah, I guess it's more transparent, but what is the point of saying you have a cap if the collectives can still go spend $15 million and then the NI deals can still total $20 million by themselves? And then also who approves what is value? Yeah. I think Dan's point on Caitlin Clark is a good one. You could find a basketball player that you say, don't really know him. Let's take the guy at UW, the kid that transferred in that reportedly had $2 million deal. UW didn't have a good season in men's basketball. They paid him a huge sum. Who's to say that he's not worth $2 million from an NIL collective versus, well, what was their ticket distribution? How much more seats did that kid help sell because they were excited to see him? There are little things you can point to. I don't think this is just going to go away and be okayed. You're going to have real fight on what is okay versus what's not. And when it's not, they're just going to find ways to manipulate and change to make you say it's okay.
Yeah, I think the Texas Tech pitcher in softball is a great example of this.
Did you see the coach?
No, I didn't see what the coach said.
He basically was like, why are people talking about this? Do you talk about every player that makes $1 million in basketball or football?
No, you don't.
So why do we care that we want to pay $1 million for our pitcher?
Well, and that's the whole point is that they gave this gal $1 million. She's going to make $1.2 million next year. I think she had 2 years of eligibility left. She transferred from Stanford. Texas Tech was a game away from winning the national championship this year.
It paid off.
Largely because of her.
Yeah.
And if this entity had existed, a calendar year ago, when she entered the portal, that contract would have had to have gone for approval. And they very easily could have responded and say, no, you're not worth $1 million. When who are you to tell anybody what they are or are not worth? That's the hardest part that I have with all of this. Of how do you get an arbitrary panel of people to come together and say your value, according to our algorithm, is $462,000. You cannot accept that $1 million offer. As these continue to mount and the more of them they get shut down, there's just going to be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit of a free market system that I'm worth what somebody is willing to pay me to do. And I don't understand how any of this is going to play out long-term in a successful way in the way that they're envisioning. The other part of this, to your point about it being, going from a shady era to basically an era where everything was above the table, I thought our friend Gary Parrish had a great piece on this on CBS over the weekend. So you have this salary cap now that these schools are going to be allowed to spend $20 million on athletics. The rough estimates from most major universities, it's going to be $15-ish million in football, 3 or 4 men's basketball, and then everybody else splits up the rest of the pie. Do we realize there's big-time college basketball players who don't, universities that don't even have a football team?
Yeah, Villanova.
Well, I know they do, but they're not
St.
John's, Gonzaga.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big-time college basketball programs
Yep.
that don't have a football team. So you're essentially telling them, hey, you now have $20 million. If you're Gonzaga and I got $20 million to spend on athletics, how much of that is going to men's basketball?
Right. Most of it.
$16 million? And that's not going to be the case in the SEC.
Well, they're not going to have that much. Some of these conferences, like Villanova's in a smaller, so they'll have 10. But, if they can spend 8 of their 10.
That's more than the big schools are going to be spending in the SEC on their men's basketball team. And you think they're just going to roll over and say, well, golly gee willikers, St. John's is outspending us on recruits. Of course they're not. They're going to find ways to pay these guys, whether it's through NIL money that will ultimately get approved or under the table and go back to the era that we were in. A lot of this is good because it's pushing the ball forward in terms of legitimizing the, contracts and playing. And I know they're not specifically contracts, but getting these players and athletes money directly from the schools. They're getting a piece of pie that they deserve because the money's coming from ticket sales, ad sales, television revenue, and all of those are directly correlated to the players and what they bring in ad dollars, ticket sales, and people wanting to watch them play and watch their universities play. I don't understand how this doesn't end up in another 650 lawsuits over the next 2 to 3 years and just continue to unravel from here.
So part of this is about the money, right? How much money are you going to spend? Well, what's that pressure going to be on these programs to spend and spend and spend? This literally came out 10 minutes ago. Ben Portnoy of the Sports Business Journal is announcing that a private
I saw that this
equity
morning.
group, Elevate, is announcing the launch of a $500 million campaign. And Ross Dellinger's followed up and said 2 power conference athletic departments have entered into an agreement with private capital funding.
Yes.
So they're getting a lot of money, and then they spend it all like a bunch of idiots. They don't know how to spend their money. And then when they're desperate because they don't want to become irrelevant, they enter into private capital funding. What will they do? They will gut entire athletic departments, mass layoffs. They'll end sports programs.
Yeah.
They'll back money, and then when they can't pay that, they'll own it. And it's just look what we're doing. What are we doing?
Watching the fallout of it is going to be fascinating because there's no doubt the sport not the sport, but all of college athletics in general has changed forever.
They don't know what
forward.
they're doing.
They have no clue what
They
they're doing.
don't know what they're doing.
There's nobody in charge. The irony of all of this is they could have just simply avoided it if 15 years ago they didn't fight against paying athletes. A lot of this started with the NCAA video game stuff where they wanted to pay the players and they said no. The game ultimately had to shut down, and then you get all these lawsuits that come out of it. Speaking of which, this is a total nerd off-the-wall thought, but did you see what EA Sports is doing with their new college football game?
I didn't know.
Did you see this, Ortner? So they're coming out with a new game. It comes out in July.
Okay.
They directly pay the players for being in the game. You get a very small check,
It's
and
a
you
tiny
get a copy
amount,
of the game.
right?
It's not a lot of money. But there's also an allotment of money that they are going to give to schools based on the amount of time that team is played with in the game.
Oh, so Ohio State's probably used one of the more.
Whoever has used the most.
Money.
And so a lot of people online are joking what program should we go prop up and just play as that program?
But they're not gonna
and
get
they get that.
much
It's
money.
not going to be an insane amount of money, but it is a funny fallout of all of that.
We just need Roaring Kitty to get all the GameStop bros, and then we all go in on
one.
Akron.
Akron
let's
is just,
make the Zips awesome again.
Dude, the Zips become dominant, man. They become dominant. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of offshoots of this. I chuckle at times with the, people arguing the disparity between the haves and have-nots are growing, and if you don't have big money boosters, you can't hang in an NIL era. And I would say, are you new to college athletics?
I know.
Has there ever been an era in which this wasn't a have versus have-not?
Right.
Do people in Pullman, Washington think they have the same legitimate chance at winning a national championship as Alabama does? There's the money, the infrastructure, the resources, the stadium, the attendance, everything that's poured into it. You live on different planets, man. That's always been college athletics. What I think has happened in the last handful of years is you've had more universities who were who could have been in the have conversation who are now elevated further up in the have conversation because they're big-time boosters are allowed to spend money. And there's a lot of really rich people out there who don't have the money to buy a professional sports franchise, but they got a lot of money sitting around and they want to spend it on their alma mater.
Well, I think there's not any one thing to point to, right? It's ineptitude by the NCAA. It's gross mismanagement of finances by multiple universities, too many to count. It's the death of a conference. It's the creation of super conferences. It's the expansion of a playoff with the never-ending expansion. It's a power grab by two conferences to control the entire entity in itself. There's not one single issue. It's just a bunch of issues that have basically killed college athletics.
Yeah, as we know it.
I mean, they'll have the logos, and I still think we're headed for a time, and we're pretty close, I think. You're not even going to have players that go to school there. You're just going to pay athletes, and they're just going to be athletes, employees, and won't even attend a class. There will be no, what's the point?
You signed a 3-year contract. You're going to come play
Your
football
grades
here for
aren't
3
good
years.
enough. Yeah, and
Who
I
cares?
major in football, bitch.
That's what I'm here to do, damn it. Yeah, the other parts of this settlement agreement are there is a new enforcement entity, a new non-NCAA enforcement entity. It is going to be called the College Sports Commission. This will definitely work. It's headed by a guy.
Is this the Trump thing?
No, this
This
is
is a
not.
different
This
thing?
is this is a
Okay.
guy. They hired a guy from Major League Baseball away. He is going to be the head investigator for all enforcement matters. They are in charge of assuring that schools remain under the cap and that third-party NIL deals with athletes are not phony booster-backed deals that have become prevalent in the last handful of years. We'll see how they go in implementing that. They also have this new NIL clearinghouse thing where basically every NIL contract over $600 in value has to be submitted to this third party. They are expected to approve or disapprove deals in as little as 1 day. Athletes then can resubmit rejected deals once certain suggestions are made. You could say, I want $100,000, and they come back and say you only want $50,000. The player then can alter the deal to align with their suggested figure, or the school can cover the difference by accepting a reduction against the revenue pool cap. Are you following all this? Yes, it's not convoluted at all. This is the part of it that I have the hardest time seeing work and implement when you're telling people what their worth is and you're not worth X amount of money, even though this university or this booster is willing to pay you X amount of money. I don't understand how that holds up in a court of law.
I just want to talk about Tiago Splitter developing Donovan Klinger. That's all I want to talk about, man.
Will he develop the Klinger? So that's the big news of the weekend. House settlement finally been approved.
It's never ending. There's
never
gonna be
ending.
more crap that comes from this.
More
more
lawsuits to come.
lawsuits and it's so annoying.
More lawsuits to follow, but now you can pay your athletes directly. Welcome to the new world of college
currently doing
athletics.
that, but yeah.
Basically. Let's talk to Mike Doc Parker. How much of Oregon State's new revenue-sharing money should go to their baseball program?
I think a higher percentage than most.
Dude, just go
I'm on the
100%.
record.
Just win every
Whoa.
national championship.
No.
Give up on every other sport. Become a
No.
baseball powerhouse that wins every title.
We are, and we haven't even done that.
We'll talk to Mike Doc Parker, the voice of the Beavs. That is next on The Fan.
1080 The Fan.
All right, big one down in Corvallis last night. I think the party's still going on as the Beavers are heading back to Omaha. Joining us now is our good friend, Mike Doc Parker, the voice.
Not paying attention to us at all, was he?
No, I was not. You guys are going to play a sound here? All right, hit me with the sound.
The Beavers return to Omaha.
I mean, anytime I get to hear Mike Parker's voice, it makes me happy.
Well, Mike probably doesn't like it, so I want Mike to grade his own call.
All right, MEP OSU on Twitter, the voice of Oregon State, all of their athletics, but baseball and heading back to Omaha. Doc, good morning to you. Grade the call.
Hey, good morning. Well, not it's a type of thing where it was such a wild game, guys, that early in the game when the Beavers were up 13-3 and 14-4, I had the luxury of sort of, okay, what should I say at the end? but then, the problem is, and I think any of us in the profession shouldn't ever try to do that and just try to go with what occurs in the moment rather than try to script anything out or, premeditate on it. And so when 14-4 became 14-6 and then 14-8 and then 14-10, now I'm worried about, I'm glad I didn't pre-script anything. I may have to rewrite completely.
Yeah.
So in the moment, I was just glad to call that the Beavers are returning to Omaha. And, it's not a great one, but for me, the whole weekend was just a joy to watch. This whole postseason, as you docs know, has been pretty amazing.
Oh, it's a remarkable run here by Canham and Company. They get to Omaha, first time under Mitch. I got to be honest, this is why you're the best and why you're better at your job than I ever would be at mine. I would just want to say, suck on that one, Florida State. Like, I just go real brutal and mean, and I probably wouldn't last very long in your
Those
profession.
thoughts occur to me. The thoughts occur to me, but I tend to reject them. But I'm actually proud of you, Brandon. If you go ahead and go with it, you have more courage than I do in my life.
Well, what Dirt doesn't know, or maybe he does, was I had to debate when to ask you to get on the show because I don't want to text you at 9:30, but I also don't want to text in the fourth inning, even though they scored all the runs so early. So I'm kind of waiting until about, I think it was 8th or 7th, and I'm like,
you don't want to jinx anything.
I didn't want to jinx
because he
it.
texted me. He said, "I'll ask Doc to come on if they win," and then they go up 7-2, and I'm like, "Well, are we gonna ask him? This thing's looking pretty good in my eyes," but I'm also not emotionally tied to it like that. Like, when you look at the weekend as a whole, Doc, this has been a thing now. Can he get back to Omaha? Will he live up to the shadow of Casey and all that nonsense that a very small minority in the fan base have done? Because the guy's done nothing but win. He just hasn't quite won at the highest level yet. They punched their ticket first time since 2018, I believe, that they're going back to Omaha. Just kind of encapsulate the entire weekend from the comeback to Friday, the pitcher's duel on Saturday, and then just home run and runs bonanza last night.
It was the last two weekends, guys, have just been an example of a couple of things. One, the grit for the team. That's true. Built through 24,000 miles of travel, all the games away from Corvallis, I think helped prepare them for a moment to take advantage of the reward of getting to be at home for all of those miles logged and the difficult challenges on the road. So to have a decisive winner-take-all on Monday against USC to settle the Corvallis Regional, and they romped in that one 9-0, and to have a decisive Super Regional at home, that, again, they worked so hard to earn that opportunity. Though the site, Goss, being at home gave the team just a tremendous lift, like, hey, we've got this, Goss will get them, we'll get them, and we're going to find our way through. But to get to those decisive games, as you've alluded to, took a lot of work. And I give Mitch credit for keeping the team and the guys up the entire year. And Brandon, what you alluded to, the shadow of the great Pat Casey who built the program, Mitch was a big part of it as a player, going to Omaha 3 straight years and winning 2 national championships. But you're right. I do think you said it's a faction of the fan base, and every fan base has a cadre or a faction that. And I don't think it's out of malice. I don't think it's out of ill will. I think it's just and sometimes it's out of just such a deep love and affection for the place that, how can we walk that guy in 4 pitches? And I feel that way sometimes as a broadcaster. I'm up 13-3, and Segura falls behind 2-0, and I'm just bemoaning my future. Oh my gosh, it's 2-0. So I understand the fans that look at things that way and then will, hold Mitch or Rich Dorman or whoever. Well, we should have won that game because of this, that, or the other. what the last couple of weeks have shown is just how difficult baseball is and the amazing variety that the game presents. And as you said, I mean, the comeback for the ages on Friday, just one good inning, really, offensively in that game. One good inning. But the pitching had been good enough to give them a shot going to the bottom of the ninth, and they score 3 against all odds. They really did. That was one of the more amazing things I've ever seen. Then they get just stymied, shut down by great Florida State pitching on Saturday. And yesterday, it looked like, the buntapalooza they had against USC that Mitch called it on Monday when they bunted 4 times in an inning, that turned into, just a home run derby, the home run palooza with 5 of them and a 14-4 lead after 4 innings. So I think I felt in answering your text, I did so before the game was over, didn't I, Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
I do think you could check the timeline, and I'm sure all of these things will be subpoenaed at some point, and we'll all have to be held accountable. But when did you send the text? What did what did I know, and when did I know it? Well, I sent you the text, I think, while the Beavers were still trying to close the deal, didn't I?
Correctamundo. It was the 8th inning. I was like, this is
he had confidence. Never a doubt. Never a doubt.
No. I have a 60 seconds to kind of send those texts out during broadcast breaks on the network. And so I worried, though, when I said, hey, Doc, pick the time, because you said either 8 or 8:15. I said, I'm good to go either way. But after I hit send and then I saw a couple of runs score, I thought it was my fault by agreeing to come on your show, because I didn't give you any caveat, like only if they win, Brandon, only if they win.
I should have put that in the question. Only if they win, Doc, can we get you on at 8 or 8:15? Can I ask you baseball question? I don't notice these things quite as much as you would on being in the day-to-day and traveling and calling these games for the team. But in what ways are they different with Mitch versus when Pat was the coach?
I would say I think Mitch is end of his run, and I do think I think that manifests itself in some of the energy on the long bus rides, and Mitch will get involved sometimes in the choice of music that everybody listens to. Kind of has a no phones, cell phone policy. Now, Pat Casey's brother, Chris, at George Fox, had kind of, as you guys probably remember, I mean, he wouldn't let the guys have phones at all on bus trips and playing football there when he was coaching, and it was written about and talked about, and we talked to Chris about that. Pat was kind of coming at the end of all of that in his career, the beginnings of people just constantly on devices and social media and all of that. But Mitch is just I think I don't want a player's coach. I'm not sure if that's the right term to use. I think he's a little bit more, he's got, on the exterior, certainly more on a moment-to-moment basis, laughing with the guys, joking around with them around the batting cage. In the hotel. Relatable is a good word for it, Doc. Pat Casey had such an aura about him. Guys loved him and respected him, but he was a tough son of a gun. Mitch can be that way, too, when he needs to be. And again, that's why I give a great deal of credit to the way he kept the team through the ups and downs and that 4-game losing streak against Oregon. There were moments and times where I think a lot of our fans, and I think it even ran through my mind, could that 4-game stretch cost the Beavers everything they've been working on? The national seed, even hosting a home regional, how would they respond to it? Well, Mitch responded as he always does. He's a great person, figure, mentor to these guys, but has a bit more of maybe an understanding of where they are in their youthful ways and trying to deal with all of this stuff. So they're both great people and men and leaders of men. Pat Casey is the most competitive person I've ever been around in my life, and I always learn something when I'm with him. Just a quick telephone conversation. We've had several here of late during this postseason, and I just come away going, man, that guy's good. He's good at everything he does. And Mitch Canham gives me similar feelings, but how would I put this? Maybe in a less profound sort of way, but when you come away from Mitch and you watch Mitch interact with his players, you say, now there's a guy that gets it, and there's somebody that's deeply respected and loved by his players too, in a different kind of way. They're both great coaches and great people I've had the honor of working with, and it is a little different. It's a little more it's a little looser, I would say, and maybe with the music and the rambunctiousness getting on and off a bus and all of that, than maybe some of the things I remember in the Casey era. But I'm honored to have been able to work with both guys.
Yeah, now he's going to the Omaha for the first time. You've been to Omaha a number of times, Doc. We're talking with Mike Parker, a longtime voice of Oregon State athletics. A lot of trips to Omaha for you over the years, so I'll ask. I've never been to the new stadium, but I have been to Rosenblatt, or I did go to Rosenblatt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss old Rosenblatt? Are you one of those guys? See that a lot when this Omaha stuff comes up. And what's the one thing that's on your list every time you go to Omaha? Do you got one thing that you got to do or one place you got to go?
It's a good question, and you know me. I mean, I'm the newest school cutting edge guy ever, so I have no nostalgia in me whatsoever for Fenway Park or Shibe Park, or which became Connie Mack, or for the days of the old professor and Casey Stengel. I know nothing about that stuff, nor do I care. I'm all about the here and now and the present. So this whole nostalgia for Rosenblatt thing, no, believe me, I loved that place. I loved Rosenblatt Stadium, the feel, the smells as you walked in. I mean, you knew you were at Rosenblatt. The new ballpark is magnificent. It was TD Ameritrade the last time I was there. It's Charles Schwab now. And I love that place, too. So I've had 3 and 3. 3 at Rosenblatt, 5, 6, and 7, 13, 17, and 18 in the new ballpark. And I still hurt over 13 when Danny Hayes pummeled the ball that their local columnist said, had Hayes hit that ball in Rosenblatt against Mississippi State, it would have ended up in the gorilla pen at the zoo across the street. So I sort of held TD Ameritrade. I was angry with the ballpark that first trip back there in 2013 because it wasn't hitter-friendly enough. I love good pitching. I love good defense. I love a 3-2 ball game. Matt Boyd beat Indiana there 1-0 in the College World Series in 2013, and it was a thrilling game at 1-0. But they've tailored things a little bit more, fixing things there, and it plays to me a little bit more legitimately than it did early. So it's a beautiful, clean, new, bright, wonderful ballpark. But those memories in Rosenblatt and the Henry Dorley Zoo, literally right across the street, my kids grew up in that zoo and in that ballpark. My 2 daughters, I mean, those family trips, 5, 6, and 7 guys, are among the best times for the Parker family ever to enjoy Beaver athletics and Beaver baseball in that venue. My wife and kids, and I would go when I had opportunity, would spend the entire day they bought a year-long membership when we'd go back there because they went just about every day, so it was cheaper to buy a year-long membership. And they did that 3 straight years and would spend all day at the zoo, and ball game come over to the ballpark and watch the Beavers in those memorable days. So I have great memories of both places, and I'm looking forward to making a few more this weekend and next in Omaha.
It's the last one I got for you, Doc. That might be also the most random membership of anybody in America. This guy living in Corvallis, membership at an Omaha, Nebraska zoo. Most random.
It's a great zoo, by the way. My grandparents, I used to go there all the time with them. Whenever we go back to Omaha to visit them, it's an underrated, really good zoo.
Yes, it is.
So the bracket has shaken out very interestingly. Obviously, Arkansas is going back. They're a 3 seed. They look like a wagon. They look like they're very hungry to get their College World Series that they haven't. Carolina loses. Vandy's out. Like, you've had 2 seed Texas gone. You've got some Cinderella stories mixed in with some, oh, my God, how is UCLA doing this? They were so bad last year. How do you like the bracket for Oregon State as they get ready to go to Omaha? I know we wait for Duke and Murray State, but just the teams that are in Omaha punch the ticket. How are we feeling about Oregon State going into it?
I haven't done much on it yet, other than to know it's Louisville and then an opportunity against either Coastal Carolina or Arizona. Arizona is one of those Cinderella stories and a familiar opponent to Oregon State. In that sense, I think it's shaken out reasonably well, and the Beavers were one of the 8 national seeds that managed to survive. I was stunned that Arizona, to me, of all the results, Arizona beating North Carolina and Chapel Hill after losing 18-2 in the opener is one of the more astonishing turnarounds in this postseason. But, I think there's a path there, and the Beaver frontline starting pitching. Now, the final score yesterday, 14-10. Let's go. No, the pitching was good, and the Beavers have good pitching. Yesterday, both offenses really came to life, and the Beavers had more of it than Florida State, which, by the way, is really good. That they pitched extremely well. I'm not sure what kind of pitching. I haven't even gotten into Louisville yet, or what Coastal and Arizona and the teams on the other side. I'm not there yet, guys. But I think there's a path here, and wouldn't it be something? What if Arkansas and Oregon State would end up playing for it again? I'm not sure Razorback fans would be too keen on that.
A little PTSD for those Razorbacks
Right.
down there in Arkansas. I enjoyed this text. We'll let you go on this. Somebody texted in. Hearing Mike Parker talk always puts a smile on my face. He could be telling me an asteroid is hurling towards the Earth, ending humanity, and I would still have a grin on my face. Well, that asteroid's not on the way, but we have grins on our face. Mike Parker, I'm sure you're grinning down in Corvallis. Hopefully you got a little bit of sleep last night. Enjoy another trip to Omaha, Doc. We always appreciate the time. Have fun.
Thanks. Hey, guys, and please send that text to a Hollywood producer the next time they make a film about the asteroid coming. And there have been quite a few of them. I'd love to get a part just to calm the people of the world. If I have that effect, I think they ought to put that in a movie. Hey, guys, it's great talking to you. Thanks for having me on. Love you guys. Keep up the good work, and let's go Bees in Omaha. Thanks.
There you go. Mike Doc Parker.
Consummate pro right there.
He's the best.
Oh,
we love chatting with him, and they're heading back to Omaha. You ever contemplate going to one of these bad boys?
I actually was thinking about it. You know me. I don't watch all these games, but like when they're on and it's the Supers, I do like start to kind of get a little into it. And I was
take some Jello shots in Omaha.
I was like, I haven't been to Omaha. I've never seen it live.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool to go back.
We drove by the stadium when we were there for the football game.
I remember it, and I just kept thinking, wish I would have gone in one of those games. I also don't want to go, and the one time I go is the year they don't win.
Yeah, you always got that fear because there's nothing worse than spending money to travel to watch your team play, and then they lose in heartbreaking fashion, and then you got the return flight.
It's a bit of a problem.
It's a whole, I've experienced a handful of those over the years, and they're not enjoyable. The win's much more enjoyable. But Oregon State heading back to Omaha and looking for their first championship since 2018 was the last one, right?
Yeah.
Last time they were there in Omaha, it's the last time they won it. Mike Doc Parker, great friend of the program. We got to get back on the clock. We're a little bit late here. Stanley Cup Final Game 3 is tonight. Also, another fallout in college baseball I want to talk about. We'll get to that next. First, here's us with a update.
This is a U.S. Open Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Sports Center is brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop. A great spot for any occasion, and don't forget you save 10% on your Butcher Shop order when you dine in. Menus and more at laurelhurstmarket.com. I am going to be honest, and I forgot that we did this. And so I've got two big news and notes from the NFL.
Yeah.
Jair Alexander, two-time Pro Bowler, he's going to get released. And Nick Chubb, we're going to be mixing in some Chubb in Houston. Yes, I did steal that from you, mixing in some Chubb.
That's it?
That's what I got.
That's all you got?
Your update was a jokey comment I made that you just stole?
And two NFL stories?
No, you stole it from Kenny.
Yeah, you actually did. Yeah,
That's
shout out
right.
Kenny, yeah. Do you remember Finding Nemo?
I do.
The fish with the glowing thing on its head.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
a cool-looking
traps you, and
fish.
it's got fangs. And
What's
it's
that
actually...
light? I'm going to go check out the light.
So that's called an anglerfish, and with its sharp teeth, naturally lit lure to attract its prey. Actually, they're female anglerfish that are almost 10 times larger than their male counterparts. They use that to lure the male in. They then bite into the male's body and fuse it with hers, creating life.
Interesting. Big updates out of Major League Baseball over the weekend. There was a team from Atlanta, Georgia that traveled out to the West Coast to play a 3-game series in San Francisco.
All right, more sports
started
scores.
on Friday.
Get
5-4 extra innings win. The Braves got so desperate that they signed Craig Kimbrell for like a day. They brought him up to the big leagues. He actually pitched great on Saturday, had an inning. He didn't give up any runs, and then they cut him. Then they DFA'd him the next day, and then followed up with a 4-3 sweep over Atlanta. Is it over? Are they blowing it up? Giants are surging.
You're so cool.
38-28 on the season. 10 games over 500.
Beat the Dodgers. Beat the Padres.
We actually haven't even played the Dodgers yet.
Have you not played the Dodgers? Not yet.
Not a single segment. No. Or game series. Damn it, Ortner. You ruined this whole thing.
You really did ruin the update.
God.
I'm
You didn't make it
sorry
as fun.
that my mixing in some Chubb comment about the Texans wasn't good enough. I'll be back, and I'll be better next week. I promise. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Will Ortner from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work. Insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The inside story on the
Man, from Kanye West to Chicago. Name me another radio station in the country that does that. Does Will Ortner know who Chicago is?
It's a great city.
You're not wrong.
And there was like a play about it, I think, and John C. Reilly was in it. It was a movie.
I think one of those artists shouldn't be played on our station. No, we don't take our music out.
Look, I'm going to enjoy the music, so it's a good song. Okay, it's not my
Separating
fault.
art from artists.
It's not my fault that he became a Nazi. Now I don't get to enjoy good content anymore.
Pre-Life of Pablo, Kanye is awesome.
He is unbelievable. His first couple albums are
I
up there
loved
with
Pablo,
the best.
actually. I thought that was a great album.
No, I'm saying like that's the end.
Yeah,
if
that
you
was the
say
end for
you
sure.
like Kanye after
Definitely.
that, I probably don't like you.
Nobody likes Kanye. You shouldn't like Kanye. Well, you know, some Nazis might like Kanye after that, but pre-Nazi Kanye, elite. Dude.
But my problem is Kanye Nazi gets money from pre-Kanye Nazi.
Yeah, sure he does. It's not that. It's a drop on the bucket.
I know, but
what
I don't
I'm
want a
taking
Nazi
me
to
not
get money.
listening to Family Business is going to take away from Kanye West's bottom line. Really, that's going to impact him. It's a good song.
God, that was my favorite song in 2004.
Beaver fans chiming in about how great the Omaha experience is going
I've
for the
heard
College
great
World
things.
Series. I think you got to go one of these years, man. You
Well,
got to go.
So here's the thing. So we got surprised yesterday, unexpectedly, with 49er preseason home game against Bo Nix and the Broncos.
Look
in
at you.
August.
You're going down to San Francisco / Santa Clara for a preseason game?
So we would fly out after our show on Friday, so it'd be
Okay.
the 8th. We'd get down there in the afternoon, and then we would rent a car and we'd hang out, and then we'd go to the game Saturday, and we'd fly back Sunday, and I'd be here for the show. I wouldn't miss any show.
Sure. That's a pretty easy weekend trip.
And I've never been to Santa Clara Stadium, so Levi's, and the good thing about the game is I've seen my team live.
Yeah.
They won.
Yes.
This game, they could lose, and I wouldn't care because it doesn't count.
You
It's
just had a
free situation. But now I'm like, the Beavers are going to Omaha. I've got miles, but I don't know what to do here. I kind of want to go.
Now,
It
when
made
does
me want
it
to go.
What's the schedule look like? When does it all start?
I think it starts Friday.
Friday's when it all begins.
Don't-
Everybody plays Friday?
Well, I mean, it's a rotation. I think it's staggered rotation.
Okay, so
Can't
not
have
everybody
everybody
plays
play.
Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's only 8 teams there. You only got 4 games.
I don't think they're doing a 4-gamer
you
thing.
should do a 4-gamer on day 1. Why would we not?
Can you not quote me on the schedule? Because I know you're looking it up. And
I'm
you're gonna
def-
go, they do have 4 games Friday.
Actually,
but
you idiot.
I don't know. But I think it starts Friday.
Friday, there are 2 games Friday.
Yeah.
It appears. They're all still to be determined. Who's
Yeah.
going to play when?
They got to figure out the bracket, and I think it's double elimination. So, there's
Yeah.
a whole thing to sort out there. But it's Friday.
So you got 2 games Friday, 2 games Saturday,
That's not
2
gonna be a cheap
games
flight.
Sunday.
Flying in Omaha is not
Flying
easy.
in Omaha is not a cheap flight.
No.
That is for certain. You could drive out there. I drove to the Final Four to watch
No.
my team
No, thank
play,
you. I'm not
Glendale,
interested.
and then they didn't get an offensive rebound, and I had to drive back, and I was sick for a week. so that
God
was
bless
cool.
people that do make that commute that way because it might save them some money and be easier. I'm not built to drive to Omaha.
No, it wasn't fun. I wouldn't do it again.
It's a boring drive.
I wouldn't recommend it either. I've done the drive to Omaha before.
Really?
Yeah, not fun. A lot of nothing.
I tell you, I had my mom's brother, who we don't really know. His family randomly stopped at our house, and I remember going, "Who's on our couch?
Who the hell's this guy?"
That's your cousin. I don't knew this person at all.
Those are the best family members when you get introduced and you're like expected to go interact with them. Like I don't know
I
this.
didn't even know you existed.
I don't know this person.
That was the situation. Didn't even know they existed.
You got a new
And I
cousin.
said, "How did you guys get here?" We drove, and I went, "How boring was that drive?" So bad.
Pretty bad.
So bad.
Not a lot out there, man.
There's nothing.
Not a lot out there.
Nothing but field.
Well, hopefully Beaver fans are going. I did want to slip in one Major League Baseball stat here because this continues to blow my mind. Paul Skeens over his last 7 starts.
Dude, he was lights out.
You know what his ERA is? 1.12.
Yeah, I was gonna say
over
1
his
point
last
something.
7 starts. You know how many wins he has in those 7 starts?
2.
1. Right in the middle.
Also, the Mariners are Cal Raleigh and nothing else.
Cal Raleigh's carrying him, baby. Keep
Dude,
carrying him.
MVP season for Cal Raleigh. That would be a feather in the Schulte cap.
That would be pretty solid.
That would be a big one.
Of all the Schulte arguments over the years, that's maybe the best one he's ever made.
Easily his best
And then he
take.
backed down from the take.
He did.
You
We
don't back
pressured him
down.
out. He was like, "Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have said that."
You don't back down from the take, man. Let's wrap it up. Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final. Answer the poll question. Send you underway next on The Fan.
It's
Now, is this acceptable? I believe it was produced by Kanye.
Jay-Z
Lost
has
one?
his own issues. Just saying.
Oh,
He's got-
Jay-Z was in
He's got a few issues there.
a lawsuit there for a while.
Got a few issues. It's okay. We're allowed to listen to him.
He bet.
Where do we draw the line on canceling, gentlemen?
He was good friends with Diddy.
A lot of parties
Did
together.
he? I don't know.
Did he?
He bet 1.2 mil on the Thunder in 5.
Did he or Jay-Z did?
Jay-Z.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Diddy can do anything.
I think his probably assets are a little frozen in the current time, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Not a lot of money going towards baby oil.
A little bit.
We got some poll questions up. Actually, not some. One poll question up. You can go vote. It'll be up for the rest of the day. What did you watch the most of over the weekend? We'll get to that here in 1 second. We do have a public apology from one Will Ortner for his
Got to be better.
lack of performance during the FUP date. And, look, I appreciate the apology.
Dr. Dre produced that song, by the way.
Oh, did he? Okay, not a Kanye song. I know Kanye did a lot of Jay-Z stuff.
Well, because Jay-Z wrote, people don't know this, Jay-Z wrote a lot of Dr. Dre's stuff for the Chronic 2001.
Yes, he did.
And so I think Dr. Dre gave him some love back and produced his...
Well, scratch my back, scratch your back.
Yeah, yes.
Kind of situation. So Will Ortner's apologized. We appreciate it, and we'll consider accepting the apology.
I did it the correct way. Notes app on X.
Yeah, it was a
that
Notes
is the
app.
way everyone has to apologize now. And
That's
I
when you
knew
know it's a
that's
real
what I needed
apology.
to do. I know, and I meant it, and was not in any way joking.
How often do you see those and you don't really read them?
98% of the time.
Have you ever read any of them?
My favorite is when you
If there's
do
something big and somebody big enough, I might, but like most of them are high school recruits decommitting, and I'm like, I'm not reading this dumb crap.
Glory be to God. My favorite is when they do the Notes app picture with the writing of something, and then in the tweet it says the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it says it in the tweet, and then you took a picture of it saying the same thing just in case you need to reaffirm the message.
Right.
Or you don't see one or the other. What did you watch the most of this weekend? 59.6% of you say Beaver baseball.
Yeah.
16.3% say NBA Finals, edging out other just ever so slightly, 16%. And then my lovely sport, the Stanley Cup Final, wasn't dead last at 8.1%, but that's to be expected. It is hockey, and I get it. I understand it. Game 3 is tonight, back in the continental United States.
The Ice Cats.
How does Blue Line Brandon feel about Game 3?
I'm leaning Panthers.
You leaning
Again,
Panthers, take a 2-1 series lead?
I think this is going the full distance. I think it's a Game 7 series again, but I think it's going to be a back and forth. I think the Ice Cats get 2 games in a row here.
Oh, they go up 3-1.
No. They won the last one.
Yeah.
So they win this
touche.
one. So sorry, that way. Yeah.
They are a minus 140 favorite tonight. Edmonton plus 120 on the money line. Blue Line Brandon 2 for 2 so far in the series.
Let's go.
Keep riding that heater, baby. That will do it for us. If you missed any of the show, go check the podcast, 1080thefan.com. We had Dan Wetzel on to break down the House settlement finally being agreed to. And then Mike Doc Parker, great friend of the show, longtime voice of the Beavs on Oregon State, again punching their ticket back to Omaha. That will do it for us. Thanks so much for being a part of our Monday. Thanks, everybody, for watching on YouTube. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. We will talk to you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Calling us next. You're listening to 1080 The Fan.